Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the bodyguard of Azula. Naruto is banished from Konoha, but gives them the slip and boards a ship. Soon after, he is shipwrecked on Ember Island and is saved by Azula. 3 years later, Naruto is Azula's bodyguard while she hunts for the Avatar, but did he see the last of Konoha? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 34, Hunting and Blindsided. Location, Western Air Temple. Morning had come. Everyone was still sleeping. Today was the last day they were going to spend at the Western Air Temple. It had been 3 days since the boiling rock incident. At dinner last night, Naruto told them that they would have to move somewhere new. Most of the group had agreed with him, so they had bagged their stuff. They were supposed to leave that morning. But of course, things have never gone that smoothly for them. Aang woke up first. He drank in the peaceful morning, listening to the birds chirp. However, the birds stopped chirping and flew away when a bomb sailed through the air and into the temple. He grabbed his staff and bent the air to shove the bomb back outside the temple. But it was only the first of many. As the others woke up, airships rose up from the morning mist. They launched more bombs at the temple. Aang and Appa, along with Fan Ing, ran back to where the others were. Using his staff to help, he used his air bending to close the area up, slamming several ceiling-high metal doors shut. The bombs still bombarded them, knocking some of the ceiling loose. "Watch out!" Zuko shouted, pushing Katara out of the way when rocks almost fell on top of her. "What are you doing?" she asked him as they rolled away. "Keeping rocks from crushing you," he answered. "Okay, I'm not crushed. You can get off me now." She got out from under him and stood up. "I'll take that as a thank you." He stood up as well. "Zuko, can you and Katara flirt later? We're kinda busy here," Naruto told him. Toph and Haru bent a hole in the back, creating a tunnel. "Come on," Toph called out to the others. "We can get out through here." They all gathered at the tunnel. Aang was trying to pull Appa into the tunnel when he saw Azula hadn't joined them. "What are you doing?" he shouted at her. "You guys go ahead," she told them. "I'll hold them off. I think I know who's here." She charged out past the metal doors, which were already being destroyed. "Azula!" shouted Zuko and Naruto. She didn't stop to listen, she just kept moving. "Come on, you guys. We've gotta get out of here," Sokka told them as he and Katara tried to help Aang try to get Appa into the tunnel. Meanwhile, Azula had gotten to the edge of the temple, just through the blast of a bomb. She threw a big fireball at one of the bomb launchers on the airships. At that point, another airship came up out of the mist. Standing in the crow's nest was Yao Jing. I guess Naruto was right after all. "You're here for something, aren't you?" Azula shouted at her. "Of course I am. I'm here for a celebration," she answered. "What's the celebration for?" "Becoming an only child." She swung her feet, shooting fire from them. Azula backed off, but the force of the blast still sent her flying. Noticing the surrounding rocks were about to collapse, she ran forward, running up a column that was slowly falling down and leapt for the airship. When it looked like she wouldn't make it, she used her fire bending to boost her up onto the airship. Yao Jing leapt down from the crow's nest to face her. The rock had collapsed around the others, but Toph was able to bend it into a shield, protecting them. "I can't get him to go in there," Aang said as he tried to get his sky bison to move. "Appa hates tunnels." "Aang, there's no way we can fly out of here," Katara told him. "We'll have to find a way. We need to split up," Sokka declared. He turned to his father and the others. "Take the tunnel and get to the stolen airship," he ordered. No. The Fire Nation can't separate our family again. Katara protested. It'll be okay. Hakoda reassured her. It's not forever. She gave him a quick hug before heading back to Appa. Sokka gave him a quick hug as well, then grabbed Suki and headed for Appa too. Zuko climbed onto Fanning. I'll be able to keep an eye on you guys, Naruto told them, putting his hands into a hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Another Naruto appeared in a cloud of smoke. Go with them and report back when they're safe, he ordered. The clone nodded and followed them down the tunnel. The original Naruto climbed aboard Fanning as well, right behind Zuko. Toph placed a hand on the rock, checking the surroundings. I can clear that away, and we can fly out through there, she told them, getting into Appa's saddle. There's an awful lot of fire in that general direction, Suki pointed out. We'll get through, Aang told her. Let's go. Appa burst through the rock and flew through the airships, his head covered by a couple of rocks before they fell off due to the speed he was flying at. Fanning was right behind him. As the dragon and the sky bison flew past, Azula and Yao Jing, both were in the midst of fighting each other, stopped and looked at them. Azula, we are leaving, Naruto shouted down at her. Zuko turned Fanning around so that Azula could get on. She understood and used her fire bending to send her flying up next to the dragon. Naruto reached out a hand for her to grab. She took it and got on behind him. Fanning flew away, following Appa. They flew hard and long the entire day. By the time the sun had set, they were far away from the Western Air Temple and had already set up camp. Wow, camping, it really seems like old times again, doesn't it? Aang asked as they sat around the campfire. If you really want it to feel like old times, Zuko said as he tossed a piece of meat to Fanning. I could, chase you around for a while and try to capture you. I guess that means I'd have to join in the chasing as well, Azula said. And that means I'm on babysitting duty again, thank you ever so much, Naruto told Aang. When she heard that, Azula swatted him on the arm. Hey, it's the truth and we both know it, he defended himself. The entire group laughed, except for one person. Ha, ha, Katara said sarcastically. To Zuko, Azula, and Naruto, Sokka announced, holding up his cup. Who knew after all those times they tried to snuff us out, they'd be our allies? Akela barked in agreement. Here. Here. The others cheered, minus Katara. Toph gave Zuko a light punch on the arm. I don't know about you two, Zuko said to Azula and Naruto. But I'm touched. We don't deserve this. Yeah, no kidding, Katara snapped, before getting up and walking away. After a minute of somewhat awkward silence, Zuko stood up and followed her. She was standing on the edge of a nearby cliff, looking down at the waves. When she heard footsteps behind and saw that it was Zuko, she became hostile and walked away. This isn't fair, he protested. Everyone else seems to trust us now. What is it with you? Oh, everyone trusts you now, she demanded. I was the first person to trust you, remember? Back in Ba Sing Se. And you turned around and betrayed me, betrayed all of us. What can I do to make it up to you? You really want to know? She asked, walking closer to him. Maybe you can reconquer Ba Sing Se in the name of the Earth King. Or, I know, you could bring my mother back. She stomped away from him. Later that night, he made his way over to Sokka's tent, running into both Suki and Naruto. Do you guys need to talk to Sokka too? He asked the two of them. It's nothing we can't talk about later, Suki told him a bit hurriedly, walking away. Are you sure? Yes, Zuko, we're sure, Naruto said. You go have a talk with Sokka, we'll get to him later. He walked off. Zuko just shrugged and walked into Sokka's tent. Sokka looked up from where he was writing in his journal, Akela resting at his side. "Hey, Zuko," he greeted, putting his journal down. "What's on your mind?" "Your sister," he answered as he sat down. "She hates me, and I don't know why. But I do care what she thinks of me. Hey, I'm surprised she's able to hate anyone in the first place. She had always been the goody two-shoes of the family. Listen, I know this may seem out of nowhere, but I want you to tell me what happened to your mother." "What?" he asked, slightly surprised. "Why would you want to know that?" "Katara mentioned it before when we were imprisoned together with Naruto and Ba Sing Se, and again, just now when she was yelling at me." The scarred dragon explained. "I think somehow she's connected her anger at that to her anger at me, Azula, and Naruto. It's not a day I like to remember." Flashback. Both Sokka and Katara were having a snowball fight against each other. Just as Sokka was about to throw a big snowball at Katara, black snow started to fall. "I'm going to find Mom," Katara told him, running off. He ran towards the walls, despite being a child. Many of the men were heading that way too. When he climbed up to the wall, he saw the black ships and the bad men, who gave a battle cry and charged forward, cradling fire in their hands. The warriors stood ready and gave their own battle cry. The fight was short-lived, with the warriors winning. Sokka hopped down the wall and grabbed a boomerang off the snow. Just as he was about to join the fight, the bad men ran away. End flashback. Many of the warriors had seen the black snow before, and they knew what it meant, a Fire Nation raid. Sokka told him. "We were badly outnumbered, but somehow, we managed to drive them off. As quickly as they came, they just left. I was so relieved when it was over, but that's because I didn't know yet what had happened. I didn't know we had lost our mother." "Wait." Zuko spoke. "Can you remember any details about the soldiers who raided your village? Like what the lead ship had looked like?" "Yeah, Sea Ravens," he answered, remembering the flags on the Fire Nation ships. The main ship had flags with sea ravens on them. The symbol of the Southern Raiders, he realized. "Thanks, Sokka." He stood up. "No problem," he replied. Zuko walked out of the tent and almost ran into Naruto. "You're going to do something stupid, aren't you?" the blonde accused him. "Would you believe me if I said I wasn't?" "No." He sighed and walked away. "Just make sure to take Appa." Zuko was confused about what he said, but didn't ask what he meant. When morning came, he was sitting on a rock outside Katara's tent. When she came out and saw him, she scowled. "You look terrible," she stated as she walked past him and reached for her bag. "I waited out here all night," he told her. "What do you want?" she asked as she brushed her hair, trying to ignore him. "I know who killed your mother." She stopped brushing. "And I'm going to help you find him." She looked back at him. "Are you lying to me?" Why would he lie about something like this?" Azula asked as she and Naruto joined them. "What are you two doing here?" the waterbender asked. "We're coming along with you," Naruto told her with a firm voice and folded arms. No arguments and no objections. Normally, she would have objected. But this was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Fine, we better get our stuff together and get on fanning. It's probably better if we took Appa, Zuko said. Fanning is not really a long-distance people carrier. The more people he's carrying, the more exhausted he is. He looked over at Naruto. I guess that's what you meant, huh? Naruto just nodded his head. They grabbed the things they needed and made their way over to Appa. Aang was feeding him while Sokka was fiddling with a flower necklace. I need to borrow Appa, Katara told Aang. Why? Is it your turn to take a little field trip with Zuko and Azula? He asked jokingly. Yes, it is. She replied. He was slightly surprised at that. Oh. What's going on? We're going to find the man who took my mother from me. Sokka stood up when he heard this. He dropped the flower necklace to the ground. Sokka told me the story of what happened. Zuko explained. I know who did it, and I know how to find him. Why are they coming? Sokka asked, gesturing at Azula and Naruto. Because we are, Azula answered shortly. What exactly do you think this will accomplish? Aang asked. Ugh, I knew you wouldn't understand, Katara said, shaking her head. She turned around and walked away. Wait. Stop. He told her. I do understand. You're feeling unbelievable pain and rage. How do you think I felt when the Sandbenders stole Appa? How do you think I felt about the Fire Nation when I found out what happened to my people? She needs this, Aang. Zuko told him. This is about getting closure and justice. I don't think so. He objected. I think it's about getting revenge. Fine, maybe it is. Katara snapped at him. Maybe that's what I need. Maybe that's what he deserves. Katara, you sound like Jet. It's not the same. Jet attacked the innocent. This man, he's a monster. What? You're not going to say anything? The QB asked his host. Why should I? He asked back. Kit, please remember I can read your thoughts. You don't think I haven't noticed your feelings about that man? There was enough hate inside the blonde for that particular person to make an Avenger proud. That is not revenge. That is justice. He said firmly. Why do I have a hard time believing you? If it was revenge, would I have stayed here for 3 years without ever going back? It could just mean you took lesson number 5 to heart. The fox commented. He had all but beaten those lessons into his Jinchuriki skull. Enough, we're done talking about this. Katara, she was my mother too. Sokka told his sister. But I think Aang might be right. Then you didn't love her the way I did. She retorted. Katara. He was horrified and a little saddened by her words. Before anyone could say anything else, Naruto smacked her on the back of her head. Apologize. He ordered. That was uncalled for. Sokka loved your mother as much as you did, and you just spat on that love. You will apologize to him. Sorry, Sokka, she said half-heartedly. Katara, the monks used to say that revenge was like a two-headed rat viper. Aang told her. While you watch your enemy go down, you're being poisoned yourself. That's cute. Azula commented. But this isn't your air temple preschool. It's the real world. Things are different here. Now that I know he's out there, now that I know we can find him, I feel like I have no choice. Katara explained. She had to find him and make him pay. Katara, you do have a choice, forgiveness. Aang told her. That's the same as doing nothing. Zuko protested. No, it's not. It's easy to do nothing, but it's hard to forgive. It's not just hard, it's impossible. She told him before walking away. Zuko, Azula and Naruto followed her. They waited until night and tried again. They had put black cloaks over their clothes, along with a face mask. Naruto had tied a bandana over his head to cover his hair, and Katara had tied her hair into a ponytail. As they readied themselves to climb aboard Appa, Aang and Sokka came out from behind a rock. So, you were just gonna take Appa anyway? Aang demanded. Yes. Katara answered shortly. It's okay, because I forgive you. He paused for a moment. Does that give you any ideas? Aang, shut up. Naruto told him. They didn't any of his antics right now. Don't try to stop us. Katara warned. I wasn't planning to. Aang replied. This is a journey you need to take. You need to face this man. Katara climbed atop Appa's head while the other three tossed the packs up into the saddle. But when you do, please don't choose revenge. Let your anger out, and then let it go. Forgive him. Okay, we'll be sure to do that, Guru Goody Goody. Zuko said sarcastically. Just get in the saddle, Zuko. Azula told him. He climbed up and she followed with Naruto behind. Thanks for understanding, Aang. Katara said. She turned her attention to Appa. Yip yip, she told the sky bison. He took off and started flying. You know, you're pretty wise for a kid. Sokka told Aang. Thanks, Sokka. He replied. Usually, it's annoying, but right now, I'm impressed. I appreciate that. His face fell when he realized what Sokka had said. Hey, can I borrow Momo for a week? Why do you need Momo? I have to do something to entertain Akela. The wolf perked up when he heard that, and the lemur looked scared for his life. Location, Appa. They flew through the air, in the light of the moon. We need to find a Fire Navy communication tower. Zuko told Katara. All the Navy's movements are coordinated by Messenger Hawk. And every tower has to be up to date on where everyone is deployed. So once we find a communication tower, we bust in and take the information we need. She declared from where she sat atop of Appa's head. Katara, we're not wearing this stuff as a fashion statement. Naruto told her, gesturing at his cloak and bandana. They were trying to do this silently. He's right. Azula agreed. We need to make sure no one spots us. Otherwise, they'll warn the southern raiders long before we reach them. Katara didn't reply. She was focused on her mission. They soon found a communication tower. She landed Appa behind a large rock. They got off Appa and ran towards the water. Katara bent the water to form a block of ice. She, along with Zuko and Azula, got on the ice and she bent the sea to push the block of ice towards the tower's wall, which was the island's natural rocky perimeter. She then bent the water to push them up, allowing them to jump into the tower base. While she did that, Naruto simply ran across the water, and then up the side of the rocks. Once they were inside the base, Naruto took the lead. They hid behind a building when they heard the sound of a door opening and a pair of guards walking out. Seeing that the door was left open, they ran in, and then climbed into the air ducts. They crawled through the ducts, using Naruto's knowledge of the tower's layout to get around. You've seen one layout of a Fire Nation communication tower, you've seen them all. They soon found the information room. Noticing that the guard at the desk was writing positions on a map, Katara bent the ink in the nearby pot to spill, covering the guard's hands. The guard walked out of the room to clean them, allowing the four to drop into the room. While Naruto and Azula covered the door, Zuko and Katara went through the records. "Okay, the Southern Raiders," Zuko announced as he found the scroll for their location. He unfurled it and examined it closely. "Bam," he stated, pointing at a particular spot on the map. "They're on patrol near Whaletail Island." "Whaletail Island, here we come," Katara declared. They put the scroll back and climbed up into the air ducts. They made their way back to Appa and flew off. Zuko, Azula, and Naruto had fallen asleep. When they woke up, the sun was rising. They also noticed that Katara had stayed awake the entire time. "You should get some rest," Zuko told her. "We'll be there in a few hours. You'll need all your strength." "Oh, don't you worry about my strength," she told him. "I have plenty. I'm not the helpless little girl I was when they came." Flashback. "I'm going to find Mom," she told Sokka as they watched the black snow fall. As everyone ran towards the wall, she ran back to her igloo. "Mom!" she cried, running through the curtain, only to see her mother and a tall, scary man with her. The scary man turned to face her. "Just let her go, and I'll give you the information you want," Katara's mother pleaded. "You hear your mother," the scary man told her. "Get out of here." "Mom, I'm scared," she whimpered. "Go find your dad, sweetie. I'll handle this," her mother reassured her. She looked at the scary man one more time before bolting out of the igloo. She ran towards the walls as fast as her little legs would allow her. "Dad, Dad," she called out as she saw her dad shoved a bad man's head into the ice. "Please, I think Mom's in trouble. There's a man in our house." Hakoda realized what that meant. "Kia!" he shouted. Both he and his daughter ran back to the house and pushed through the curtains. What they saw made them wish they hadn't. End flashback. "I ran as fast as I could," Katara told them. "But we were too late. When we got there, the man was gone. And so was she." "Your mother was a brave woman," Zuko declared. "I know." Naruto climbed out of the saddle and got onto Appa's head. "Get some rest, Katara," he told her. "I'll take care of the flying." She handed him the reins, climbed into the saddle, and fell asleep. Azula, Zuko, and Naruto kept handing off the reins to one another for the rest of the day, allowing her to sleep. By the time night had fallen again, they had found what they were looking for. "There!" Zuko shouted from Appa's head, waking up Katara. "See those sea raven flags?" he asked her, tossing the telescope at her. She looked through it and a Fire Nation ship. But she also saw the flags on the ship. "It's the Southern Raiders. Let's do this," she declared, lowering the telescope. Appa went under the water and swam through it, Katara bending an air bubble for him. As they got close to the ship, she bent a water whip to shoot up and grab one of the raiders. It sent him flying into the ocean and got the other raiders to run over to the railing. Appa swam underneath the ship and rose up to the surface. As he did, Katara bent the sea to rise up into a wave and sent it at the ship. Just as one of the raiders noticed, it hit the ship and sent most of them over the edge. The one raider who managed to stay aboard was quickly sent overboard as well when Appa landed on the deck and Katara used her waterbending to send him flying. Zuko opened a nearby door, and they went into the ship. When a raider came out of his cabin to stop them, Azula grabbed the sword he was holding and shoved him back in. She closed the door and stabbed the sword through the door handles, ensuring the raider couldn't get out. They kept moving until they reached the door to the helm. "This is it, Katara," Naruto told her. "Are you ready to face him?" She simply pulled her face mask down and hurled the water she was carrying at the door with a shout. The water collided with the door and forced it open. Zuko quickly stepped into the room and brushed aside the fireballs sent at him. "Who are you?" the commander of the Southern Raiders demanded. "You don't remember her?" Azula asked, briefly looking over at Katara. "You will soon enough." The commander tried to bend another fireball at them, but out of nowhere, his body stopped obeying his commands. "What's happening to me?" he asked as he was forced down to the ground. As they watched this happen, Zuko, Azula, and Naruto realized Katara was making him do this. "Think back," Zuko ordered the commander. "Think back to your last raid on the Southern Water Tribe." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please, I don't know," he begged. "Don't lie." He bent down and then pointed at Katara. "You look her in the eye and you tell me you don't remember what you did." She bent his body up so that she could look at his face, only to realize something important. "It's not him," she said, her expression going from one of hate to one of shock. "He's not the man." She let her control over his body go away, letting him fall to the floor. "What? What do you mean he's not?" Azula asked her. "He's the leader of the Southern Raiders. It has to be him." The waterbender didn't say anything. She just turned around and started walking out of the room. Zuko grabbed the commander and slammed him up against the glass. "If you're not the man we're looking for, who is?" he demanded. When Katara heard this, she stopped and listened. "You must be looking for Yon Rha," he answered. "He retired 4 years ago." When she heard that, Katara walked out of the room. She now knew who her target. Zuko demanded the location of the retired commander. When he got it, Naruto stepped in. "That's enough, Zuko," he said to the scarred dragon. "You and Azula follow Katara back to Appa. I'm gonna have a quick chat with the commander." The two nodded and left the room. "Who are you people?" the commander asked again. To answer him, Naruto lowered the face mask and untied the bandana, making his eyes go wide with fear. "Lord Naruto, I thought you were imprisoned," he said in both shock and fear. "I broke out with some help," he answered as he slowly drew his Jien. "But now, we have a problem on our hands." "A problem?" asked the commander. His eyes were riveted on the blade in front of him. "Well, you know I can't really let you live now that you've seen us, especially me," the blonde said with a casual tone in his voice. "The Fire Lord won't know, I swear." "So, you and the rest of the raiders will take part in it?" The commander nodded almost frantically. "Okay then, that's what I was hoping you'd say." He sheathed the Jien, put the bandana back on and walked out of the room. He made his way down the corridor, out onto the deck and back onto Appa, who then took off. "What did you talk to him about?" Azula asked him. "I ensured that the commander and the Southern Raiders would be a part of a time-honored tradition," he answered as he leaned against the saddle. "And which tradition is that?" "The tradition of not seeing a damn thing," he answered, a small grin. But when he turned to look at Katara, who was holding the reins, the grin disappeared. "That was bloodbending back there, wasn't it?" he asked her. "Yes," she answered shortly. "Not gonna ask how I know." "I don't care." "Katara, you need to calm down," he told her. "If you keep going like this, the hatred you hold will consume you." "What gives you the right to say that?" She snapped at him, turning her head to face him. "Who did you lose, huh?" "Probably no one, I'll bet." "You're wrong," he replied with a harsh tone and a hard look on his face. "I told you when I was posing as Shu Yi that my parents were dead. They had died when I was born. But I would like to think I had a grandfather figure when I was young, and he died in an attack. So yes, I have lost someone." Don't ever think that you're the only one who's lost somebody. She didn't say anything back. She just her head back around and kept facing forward. Location, Fire Nation. The man knelt before his garden, raking the soil with his trough. "Yon Rha, you lazy piece of work!" screamed an old woman from the house behind him, standing in the doorway. "I need something." "Yes, mother," he answered. "What is it?" "The tomato carrots from your garden are too hard for my gums. I need something soft and juicy. Would you like something else from the garden?" he offered, turning to face her. "I would be happy to." "Forget your stupid garden," his mother shouted at him. "Get your grimy hind to the market and get me some real food." She walked back into the house. He made his way down to the village and started buying grocery. When he was getting a few things from one store, he felt someone's eyes on him. "Hello?" he called out, turning around. He didn't see anyone. "Did you see someone?" he asked the store owner, who shook his head. Thinking it was just his mind playing around with him, he shrugged it off. Once he had all his groceries, he started to walk back to his house. As he went down a set of stairs, the feeling came back, making him stop. "Hello?" he called out, looking back the staircase. "Is someone there?" When he didn't get an answer, he scowled, but he kept on walking. However, his feelings were right, someone was watching him. That was him. Katara told the others as they watched him walk away. That was the monster. "He's not a monster," Naruto told her. "He's just a man." The storm clouds overhead had finally opened up and poured down rain. Yon Rha kept on walking home. The feeling of eyes watching him never went away. "Nobody sneaks up on me without getting burned," he declared, suddenly whipping around and bending fire at a bush. As he watched it burn, he sighed and picked up the groceries he had dropped. He began walking again, only trip over a wire and making him fall down. A burst of fire made him leap back. "We weren't behind the bush," Zuko informed him as he stood in a fire-bending stance. "And I wouldn't try fire-bending again." "You really shouldn't," Azula said, leaning against the tree behind him with a hand on one of her daggers. "It might be good for you." "Whoever you are, take my money," he told them in a frightened voice. "Take whatever you want, I'll cooperate." "We're not here for your money," Naruto said as he walked up beside Zuko. "But you will cooperate with us." Katara walked up to him and pulled her face mask down. "Do you know who I am?" she asked him. "No. I'm not sure," he answered. The face seemed familiar, he just couldn't place it. "Oh, you better remember me like your life depends on it," she told him. "Why don't you take a closer look?" Yes, I remember you now." He recognized the face. "You're the little water tribe girl." Flashback. "Just let her go," the water tribe woman pleaded with him. "And I'll give you the information you want." "You heard your mother," he told the little girl. "Get out of here." "Mom, I'm scared," she told her mother. "Go find your dad, sweetie. I'll handle this." He watched as the girl ran out of the igloo before turning his attention to the mother. "Now tell me, who is it? Who's the waterbender?" he demanded. "There are no waterbenders here," she told him. "The Fire Nation took them all away a long time ago." "You're lying. My source says there's one waterbender left in the Southern Water Tribe. We're not leaving until we find the waterbender. If I tell you, do you promise to leave the rest of the village alone?" He gave a single nod. "It's me. Take me as your prisoner." "I'm afraid I'm not taking prisoners today," he told her with an evil smile. End flashback. She lied to you. Katara told him, looking away. She was protecting the last waterbender. What? Who? He asked, surprised. She turned her gaze back on him, her eyes filled with anger and hate. Me. She shouted at him before bending the surrounding rain to stop and form a dome over their heads. It held there for a minute before she bent it apart and hurled it at him, changing it into a barrage of ice spikes. He flinched away, covering his eyes with his arms. When he felt no pain, he looked beyond his arms. The spikes just floated in the air, inches away from his face. Closing her eyes, she lowered her hands, turning the ice back into water and letting it collapse to the ground. I did a bad thing, he admitted, getting onto his knees. I know I did, and you deserve revenge. So why don't you take my mother? That would be fair, he offered with a weak smile. I always wondered what kind of person could do such a thing, she said. But now that I see you, I think I understand. There's just nothing inside you, nothing at all. You're pathetic and sad and empty. Please spare me, he begged, bowing his head. But, as much as I hate you, I just can't do it. She walked away and the others followed her. He stayed there on the ground. The three of them walked away, leaving the retried commander of the Southern Raiders weeping on the ground, his groceries scattered all around him. Location, Ember Island. They had flown to Ember Island, to the beach house the royal family once used. While everyone shared what happened, Katara went down to the beach. She sat on the dock, kicking her feet back and forth in the water and looking at the sunset. I miss you, Mom, she thought to herself in sadness. I miss you so much. Katara? Said Aang as he, Zuko, and Naruto joined her on the dock. Are you okay? I'm doing fine, she answered. Zuko and Naruto told me what you did. Or what you didn't do, I guess. I'm proud of you, the air nomad told her. I wanted to do it, she replied, casting a glance at him. I wanted to take out all my anger at him, but I couldn't. I don't know if it's because I'm too weak to do it, or because I'm strong enough not to. You did the right thing. Forgiveness is the first step you have to take to begin healing. She stood up and faced the three of them. I didn't forgive him. I'll never forgive him. She turned her attention to Zuko and Naruto. But I am ready to forgive the three of you. I'm sure Azula will be glad to hear that, Naruto told her. She gave them both a hug and walked away. You were right about what Katara needed, Zuko told Aang. Violence wasn't the answer. It never is, he replied. Then I have a question for you. He turned to look at him. What are you gonna do when you face my father? He looked away. I don't know. That was the sticking point for him whenever he thought about how to end the war. I've got a better question for you, Naruto said, looking directly at him. What do you do when you go up against someone who doesn't deserve forgiveness? Everyone deserves forgiveness, Naruto, Aang answered. He snorted in derision. Spoken like a true naive idiot. He turned around and began to walk away. That's something about the real world you need to learn. Not everyone deserves to be forgiven. Some just deserve to die. Naruto, Zuko spoke. When you told Katara that if she went on like that, the hatred would consume her, you sounded like you knew what would happen. Did something like that happen to you? He stopped and then looked back at them. Let's just say it was one of the reasons I came here. He kept walking. What happened? The scarred dragon asked, wanting to know. If you want to know, go ask your sister about Itachi Uchiha. He left them alone on the dock. You're a fucking hypocrite, you know that, right? The QB asked him. Yeah, I know. Location, beach house. It had been 2 days since Katara and the others came back to Ember Island. That morning, as Katara and Toph relaxed, Aang and his teachers, Azula and Zuko, were practicing their firebending. Nearby, Naruto was sparring against a clone of his. Aang, Azula, and Zuko finished their sets, breathed in deep and bowed to one another. "Doesn't it seem kinda weird that we're hiding from the Fire Lord in his own house?" Katara asked. "I told you," Zuko said as he wiped off the sweat he had created from the practice. "Our father hasn't come here since our family was actually happy. And that was a long time ago. It's the last place anyone would think to look for us." Azula agreed as she splashed water on her face. Both she and her brother were sitting around the fountain in the middle of the courtyard. "You guys are not gonna believe this," Sokka announced as he and Suki entered the courtyard. "Believe what?" Naruto asked as he beat the clone, making it vanish and walking over. "There's a play about us. We were just in town and we found this poster," Suki explained as Sokka showed the poster. "What?" Katara asked as they all gathered around. "How is this possible?" "Listen to this." Sokka turned the poster to face him and began reading it. "The Boy in the Iceberg" is a new production from acclaimed playwright Puan Tim, who scoured this side of the globe gathering information on the Avatar, from the icy South Pole to the heart of Ba Sing Se. His sources include singing nomads, pirates, prisoners of war, and a surprisingly knowledgeable merchant of cabbage. Brought to you by the critically acclaimed Ember Island players, Suki finished reading, making Zuko, Azula, and Naruto groan in disgust. "Our mother used to take us to see them," Zuko explained as everyone looked at them. "They butchered love amongst the dragons every year," Azula said. "I went to go see that play when I was first here," Naruto told them. "Believe me when I say I was glad when the play was over. It wasn't that bad," the QB argued. "Yes, it was," he replied silently. "Sokka, do you really think it's a good idea to attend a play about ourselves?" Katara asked her brother. "Why not? It's the kind of wacky, time-wasting nonsense I've been missing," he told her. "Please, let's not," Naruto half begged. "I really don't want to gouge out my own eyes. It can't be all that bad," Aang told him. "At least give it a try." The fox agreed. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you," the blonde told the non-Fire Nation members of the team. That night, they went to the theater to watch the play. By the end of it, they were thoroughly depressed and disgusted with it. The so-called play was nothing more than Fire Nation, or to be more precise, Fire Lord, propaganda. The characters acted nothing like their real-life counterparts. By the time the second act had started, Naruto was seriously considering leaping onto the stage and murdering everyone there. By the time the third act had started, Zuko and Azula had joined him in the planning. Unfortunately, they didn't actually put any of it into action, might have saved a lot of misery if they had. When the play ended with the Fire Nation's victory, of course, the rest of audience gave a standing ovation. They, on the other hand, couldn't have left the theater faster. "That wasn't a good play," Zuko stated as they walked away. "I'll say," Aang said. "No kidding," Katara agreed. "Horrible," Suki declared. "You said it," Toph supported. "But the effects were decent," Sokka commented. "Oh great, a saving grace," Azula remarked dryly. "Kit, I am so sorry for doubting you," the QB told his host. Even he had been offended by what he had just seen, and considering how long he had been around, that was saying a lot. "No problem," he replied. "I want you to promise me something." "What's that?" "Promise me that that abomination never gets into the hands of one of those movie makers back home. QB, if that happens, I will gladly kill the entire movie crew, okay?" "Thank you. Thank you so much." The walk back to the beach house was quiet. But when they got back, it was quiet. That's strange, Aang remarked as they entered the house. I thought Momo or Akela would greet us. You're right, Naruto said, taking the lead. That is strange. Everyone, be ready for a fight, something tells me we're not alone here. They walked carefully through the house. Sokka and Zuko had their swords out while Azula readied her daggers. Katara, Toph and Aang were ready to move into a bending stance at a moment's notice, the same as Suki. They didn't see anyone, but the fact they also didn't the animals made them uncomfortable. Hey! There they are, Suki said as they entered the courtyard. Sure enough, Appa, Momo, Akela, and Fanning were all piled up next to each other. They look like they're sleeping, Aang noted. Maybe we shouldn't wake them, he said as Sokka and Zuko sheathed their swords and went over to check on them. I don't know about the others, but Appa gets kinda cranky when he's suddenly woken up. Hold on, Fanning's not asleep, Zuko announced when he checked his dragon. He's knocked out. The same with Akela, Sokka said as he looked over the wolf. Well, they are asleep, Suki told them as they quickly checked Appa and Momo. They're not asleep. They're unconscious, Zuko explained. That was when Naruto noticed that paper was attached to stuff in the courtyard. But it wasn't just paper, it was seal tags and there was enough perfectly positioned to cover the entire courtyard. Oh no, he thought in realization. Everyone, get out, he suddenly ordered, surprising the others. We need to get out of this house now. But before anyone could ask him why they had to get out, the seal tags went off. There wasn't an explosion because these were not explosive tags. They held something different. It's knockout gas, Kit, the QB warned him. I kinda noticed, he replied as he covered his mouth and nose, trying to protect himself from it. How much did I breathe in? Not enough to take you out. He looked around and saw that the others were already collapsing. I have to get them out of the gas, he thought to himself. But before he could even reach for one of them, or even create clones, he got a swift punch in the stomach, making him pull his hand away to gasp. The gas flew swiftly into his mouth and nose, making him begin to feel woozy. He fell to his knees. He tried to stand up, but it was impossible. When a shadow fell over him, he looked up. The face was blurry due to the fact he was falling unconscious, but he could still hear the voice. Hey Gaki, how've you been? It asked him. He didn't answer. He just fell over, completely knocked out. Chapter 35, Different Places and Same Problems. Location, Azula. She slowly opened her eyes, wincing at the light glaring at her. What happened? She asked herself silently. The last thing I remember is Naruto telling us to get out. That was when she remembered the rest of it. She remembered them finding the animals unconscious as well as being hit by the knockout gas. She leapt out of the bed and ran over to the nearby window. Where in the name of Agni am I? Just outside the window was a place she had never seen before. It didn't look like it belonged in the Earth Kingdom, the Water Tribes, or the Fire Nation. When she heard something beyond the door that sounded like footsteps walking to the room, she ran over and stood beside it. When it swung open, the door hit her. She heard someone walk in. Hey, are you up yet? A voice asked. The voice sounded familiar to her. Then it came to her, it belongs to that blonde-haired girl that had been with Aang in the drill at the outer walls of Ba Sing Se. Ino walked into the room, but when she looked at the bed, she didn't see Azula sleeping there. She barely had time to comprehend this when Azula rushed out from behind the door and slammed into her, knocking them both down to the ground. Hey, get off of me! She protested as she tried to get up. Where am I? Azula demanded as she struggled to keep her down. Where are the others? Where's Naruto? She felt someone grab the back of her shirt and pulled her off of Ino. Let me go. Azula, calm down. ordered a familiar voice. She stopped struggling when she heard that voice. Zuko, that's you, right? She asked, making sure that it was. Yeah, it is. The voice answered. When she turned to look, she saw that it was indeed her brother. Then do you mind letting go? As long as you behave, he let go of her. Nice to meet you again as well, Azula. Ino said, standing back up. While she hadn't been expecting that surprise attack, she still things could smoothly. The feeling is not mutual. Azula replied curtly. What is going on, Zuko? Where are we? She asked her brother, turning to face her. Maybe it's best if you came down to the lobby with us. He told her. What are you talking about? She was confused and she wanted some answers. If you would actually try and listen instead of flapping your mouth. Ino told her, a little annoyed that she was being ignored. You're in the top hotel of Konoha, the tree house. Konoha? Where is that? Azula, Zuko said, getting her attention. We're in Naruto's home village. Damn, Akela. You got big. Kiba said as he and Akamaru stood in front of the wolf. Akela was indeed bigger, having reached Sokka's stomach height-wise. And he was more muscular too. He was no longer a pup. Seriously? Asked Sokka. You greet the wolf before the rest of us? They were all standing around in the lobby, a wide room that could hold a lot of people. The place was mostly empty at that moment, as they were the largest group there. They were standing, leaning against a wall, or sitting on a chair near the entrance to the hotel. It's troublesome, but that's just how Kiba is. Shikamaru stated. He isn't Inuzuka after all. They would always talk to the dogs first. Well, it's still great to see you all again. Katara told the members of the Konoha 11 that were there. We weren't sure if you had made it out of Ba Sing Se alive. That had a worrying thought during the time Aang had been comatose. We did. Niji said. But we had thought Aang had died and our mission failed. Naruto was so unyouthful to have lied to us. Lee declared. Well, to be fair to Naruto, he thought Twinkle Toes was dead too. Toph told him from where she lounged in a chair, feet planted firmly on the ground. So Zuko and Azula, who had been chasing you for the better part of a year, turned traitor and joined your team. Shino asked Aang. Pretty much, yeah, he answered with a big goofy grin. He was sitting on an arm of the chair Toph was sitting in. Why would they do that? Hinata asked him. We don't actually know. Suki answered. What do you mean you don't know? Tenten said. We never really bothered asking them. Sokka replied. They were just glad they weren't chasing them anymore. It's because we didn't want the future of the Fire Nation to be spas built upon broken homes and orphan children. Azula declared as she, Zuko, and Ino walked into the lobby. Everyone in Team Avatar noticed how agitated she looked just by the expression on her face. I would like to say it's nice to see you again. Choji told her. But it'd be hard to actually say. She ignored him and looked around, seeing only the young members of the shinobi teams. Where are the adults? The last time I checked, you were being chaperoned. She asked them. A few of them scowled, figuring she was trying to be insulting. The others ignored the tone. Kurenai-sensei went to the hospital to check up on the baby. Shino told her. Asuma-sensei went with her. Ino chimed in. How's the baby? Katara asked. Even though they had known the Kunoichi was pregnant, she didn't really look like when they had seen her. Then again, it had been early spring, and it was now mid to late summer. It's doing fine. Shikamaru answered. And where is the third one? Azula asked, looking around and not seeing him. Gai-sensei is off being Gai-sensei. Tenten answered a little evasively. He said something about running up and down the Hokage mountain 200 times. 100 times in under 20 minutes or something like that. Niji explained, going where his teammate didn't want to go. YOSH! Exclaimed Lee. Guy-sensei is very youthful. I wish I could join him, but I wanted to meet our friends. Is that all you want to know, Azula? Sokka asked her. No, I have one more question. And what's that? Hinata asked. Where is Naruto? That question made everyone go silent. Naruto is, sleeping. Choji said, trying to come up with an excuse. Yeah, he's still asleep. He didn't finish that sentence due to the fact Azula had grabbed him by the shirt and had slammed him into a nearby wall, surprising everyone. Don't lie to me. She snarled, drawing back her fist and covering it in blue fire. Where is Naruto? Young lady, could you please put the Akimichi clan heir down? A man's voice told her, coming from the entrance. I really don't want to explain to his parents how he became a piece of barbecued meat. She turned around to look at who was talking. She saw a tall man with white, spiky hair that fell to his waist. He wore a headband that was different from the others wore. It was horned and had a kanji on it. He wore green shirt and pants with a red vest over it. He wore hand guards and wooden sandals on his feet. On his back was a large scroll. On his face, he had red lines coming out from his eyes, almost as if he was crying blood. Who are you? She asked. He gave a small smile. That was when she got the feeling she should be afraid of this man. To be more precise, she should be very afraid of this man. I am the man who was asking you nicely to put him down. He told her. All right, fine. She let go of Choji, but still sent him a dirty look. I just want to know where Naruto is. Well, I guess it's a good thing I came here to take you and your group to him. He turned around and walked away. Coming? Who are you? She demanded. The name's Jiraiya. Now let's go already. Sheesh, I thought I was supposed to be the slow one at my age. Location, Konoha Jail. You know, it figures. Naruto thought to himself. I get out of one prison only to wind up in another. He sat in the middle of the cell, his back to the bars. He had been changed out of his boiling rock prison clothes into the prison uniform of the Konoha jail, which was a bright orange. His hands were shackled to his sides, so he couldn't form hand seals. And you used to have good luck. The QB commented. But still, we both should have realized what he had done before we went into that house. I got cocky and he used that to his advantage. It was bound to happen, sooner or later. He admitted. Personally, I had hoped they would try to do this after we dealt with Ozai. We wouldn't have had a deadline then. When have Konoha shinobi ever been considerate? Shouldn't I be asking you that question? You've known them longer. The sound of a rod banging on the cell got his attention, although he didn't show it. Hey, you little demon brat, the guard said, his voice sounding strangely high-pitched. Can you hear me? Unfortunately, yes. By the way, you really can't call me little demon brat anymore. He replied, not turning to face the guard. I'm not as little as I used to be. You think you're so funny, huh? I don't think. I know I'm funny. You just don't have a sense of humor. You little shit. The guard roared. I should come in and... What? Try to sodomize me like you tried before? The blonde asked, cutting him off. I don't think your balls can take another stomping. What would your wife think of you if you went around, touching teenage boys like that? If it was the QB brat, I don't think she'd mind. That was when he felt the gaze of the Shinigami on his back. Turning around, he saw who it was. Lo Lord Jiraiya, I... Get... out. Jiraiya ordered, his arms folded and his expression angry. 2 simple words and the guard fled. The rest of Team Avatar watched this happen. They had felt some of what the guard was feeling, and that put them on edge. Clearly, the man in front of them was someone well known and one not easily trifled with. "So, how are you, Naruto?" he asked as he walked up to the cell bars. Kicking myself for not seeing something so blatantly obvious, the blonde answered without turning around to face them. "You were under my nose the entire time, and I didn't even notice." "You're good, kid, I'll admit that. But you still have things to learn if you want to beat me," Jiraiya told him with a big grin. "I was truly impressed with how you played Boss Sensei. That was very, very good work." "You heard about it?" he asked, sounding a little glad, strangely. "And I read the report you sent to the Fire Lord. Hell, I was there when he received the report. You should have seen the look on his face. It was priceless. That would be a moment he would treasure for the rest of his life." "Naruto, the two of you are making it sound like this. Jiraiya was there," Zuko said to the blonde. "That's because he was there, Zuko," Naruto told him. "You should know better than us all right now. He was your servant." He finally turned around and looked Jiraiya straight in the eye. "Isn't that right, huh?" It only made the old man laugh. "I see you figured it out." "Wait, how is he, huh?" Azula asked, looking at the man. He and the servant assigned to Zuko looked nothing alike. He used the henge no jutsu to disguise himself and used a different name. Naruto explained to her. "It should have been so obvious, considering he used that particular name." "Why's that?" Sokka asked. "Ha means toad, right?" Everyone in Team Avatar nodded. There are many stories here in the elemental countries. Quite a few of those stories are about the Sannin, the 3 students trained by the 3rd Hokage. This man. He gestured at Jiraiya with his head. He's one of those 3. His name is Lord Jiraiya, the Toad Sage of Konoha, student of the 3rd Hokage and sensei of the 4th Hokage. "Pleasure to meet you," Jiraiya told them with a small bow of his head. "When you say toads," Zuko said. "Do you mean like?" He left the question hanging. "Like the one I summoned back in Ba Sing Se?" Naruto asked. Zuko nodded. "That was the chief of the toads. And I have Gamabunta to thank for getting me over there without you noticing," Jiraiya said, getting his attention. "What?" "That's impossible. I put a block on my name." That had been the only thing that had kept him from being reverse summoned into Konoha hands. "Yes, you did. But thankfully, the toads and I knew a loophole. It's true the toads can't reverse summon you if you didn't stay in the last location. They knew you were at, like where you summoned Gamabunta. But what they could do is reverse summon someone to Mount Maya Boku, and then reverse summon that same person to your last known location. So, the toads called you back to Mount Maya Boku, before sending you into Ba Sing Se, using the reverse summon both times. That way, they could send someone after me without breaking the oath I made them swear." The blonde finished. "Yeah, that's about it." "So you've been spying on me since Ba Sing Se?" he asked, wanting to be sure. "Sure. I was, until that invasion." "You never change, do you?" All he got for an answer was a glare which made him laugh. "Anyway, after that, I kept my eye on the traitors here." He gestured at Azula and Zuko. "So, you know everything we're going through, correct?" "Correct." "Then you couldn't have waited until after the comet?" Naruto demanded. "We have a deadline, damn it." "Relax, kid. You still have time," he replied, staying calm. "Besides, I said the same thing but Tsunade wanted you back now." The blonde narrowed his eyes when he heard that. "I take it she will want to see me as well as the councils?" "Yes." "When will it happen?" Jiraiya reached into his shirt and pulled out a key. "Now," he answered, opening the cell door using said key. Naruto sighed and stood up. "Well, let's go enjoy the fun." He walked out of the cell and looked at Team Avatar. "Guys, there are a few things you need to do now," he told them. "For the duration of this walk and the meeting, you are to let nothing show on your faces, you are to do nothing, and above all, you are to keep your mouths shut. We about to engage in shinobi politics, the kind of politics that have taken bullshitting to an art form. We can't afford to make any mistakes. Get it?" "Yeah, we got it," Toph answered. How hard was it to not say anything? She knew how to keep her mouth shut. "Then we might as well get going. Take the lead, Jiraiya," he ordered the Toad Sage. "Follow me." He took Naruto by the arm and gently, but firmly led him out of the cell room. The others fell in behind him. As they walked through the prison, the guards they came across would either try to glare at him or outright ignore him. He started to recognize the symbol on the shoulders of the guards' shirts. That's when he realized that these weren't just guards and he wasn't any normal prison. "This is the building of the Konoha military police force, isn't it?" he asked Jiraiya. Funny, I would have thought that it had fallen into disuse after that little incident involving the Uchiha. While the Uchiha did take up most of its members, the police force was not disbanded. The other members took up the slack until their strength was back to normal. Jiraiya informed him. "You know, Sasuke has become a part-time member." "Oh joy, just what I wanted to know," he replied. His voice laced with so much irony you could almost taste it. "Where is Team Kakashi?" Sokka asked. He hadn't seen any member of the team he had heard so little about, so he was a little curious. "Tsunade sent them on a mission the day before I captured you all. It's supposed to take a month and a half to 2 months to finish. Less hassle, I suppose," Naruto commented. He didn't want to deal with them right now. They stopped in front of the main entrance, the doors barring them from the rest of the village, at least for the moment. Jiraiya let go of his arm and stepped in front of him. "Are you ready?" he asked Naruto. "Of course not," the blonde answered. "If I had my way, we wouldn't be here." "Well, tough. Try not to escape as we walk to the Hokage building, okay?" "How could I escape? My hands are shackled to my sides and I'm wearing the prisoner uniform, which is a bright orange jumpsuit." He raised his hands slightly to emphasize his point. This is coming from the kid who could outrun and hide from ANBU squads while wearing a bright orange jumpsuit. The Toad Sage drily remarked. "That was a long time ago," he said shortly, not wanting to remember those days. "Gaki, you only get to say that when you're my age." "Whatever. Let's just start the performance." Jiraiya opened the doors and they walked out into the village. Even though they had walked through it before to get to the police building, the village still astounded and awed the team. It looked nothing the cities of the Water Tribes, Earth Kingdom, or the Fire Nation, or even the temples of the Air Nomads. Those cities had looked like they had stood for thousands, if not millions of years. This place looked like it had been around for a while, but also had things added on over time. It gave the place a kind of a patchwork look. And yet, it felt different as well. They could feel the vibe of life going through the village just by looking at the buildings. They felt that even though the places they had been to held living people, this place looked like it was alive itself, always growing and adding new things. When they looked at the people, they saw something else entirely. When the people of Konoha saw them, they could see the curiosity in their eyes. But when those eyes looked on Naruto, they could see the shock, the anger, the hate, and the fear in them. All around them, they could hear the whispers of "he's back," as well as the demon brat. And they should kill him. The whispers grew louder and louder, along with the glares of hatred and anger. When they turned onto the main street, the whispers and the glares intensified. It was a civilian who threw the first stone, literally. The rock sailed through the air and clipped Naruto on the shoulder, making him stumble back. They would have done something, but the look he sent at them as he recovered stopped them. They weren't supposed to do anything, and they weren't supposed to say anything. Another rock flew out from the crowd, but a hand shot out and grabbed it before it hit him. He looked at the hand and then followed the arm up to the face, even though he knew who it was due to the green leotard the person wore. Lee stood in front of him, a smile on his face. He turned to where the rock had been thrown from. The smile disappeared from his face as he crushed in the rock in his hand. He held out the hand and opened it, letting the remnants fall to the ground. He then walked around behind Naruto. The rest of teams Kurenai, Guy and Asuma came out of the crowd. Not all at once, one or two would push their way out of the crowd and join the group. When Naruto saw them all behind him, he stopped walking. He got everyone's attention when he turned around and faced them. "What are you all doing?" he asked them. "What do you think we're doing, Naruto?" Kiba asked back with a big grin on his face. "We're your friends," Tenten told him. "Friends help and support each other." He groaned, loud enough for everyone in the street to hear him. "Go away," he ordered them all with a loud and firm voice. "You are not my friends. You're just people I may have to kill later." He turned back around and kept on walking. Jiraiya led the way and Team Avatar followed, not batting an eyebrow. The other teams just watched them leave in sadness. But the crowd just stared at his back in shock. Most of the Konoha 11, the best team of rookie shinobi Konoha had to offer, made up of the clan's heirs and exceptional shinobi, had shown their support for Naruto, and he had thrown it back in their faces. They had never seen such a thing before. "Did you have to do that, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked as they entered the Hokage building, getting away from the crowds. "Don't even start, Jiraiya," he retorted. "You don't think I would have known that was your idea? It just reeked of the Toad Sage's handiwork. It might have been mine, but they wanted to do it," the old shinobi admitted. "They were trying to help. I don't want or need their help." He had been trying to make that clear ever since he had teamed Kurenai and Omashu. The problem was that they weren't getting the picture. They made the rest of the walk in silence, climbing through the building. When they stood in front of the doors leading to the council room, two members of ANBU stepped forward. "We'll take him now, Lord Jiraiya," the one with the bear mask told him. He stepped aside and Naruto stepped forward. The ANBU took hold of each of his shoulders. "I'm sorry, but the rest of you will have to stay out here," the one with the hawk mask told the group when they were taking a step forward. "Not a word, Aang," Naruto ordered without turning around to look at him. "Your status doesn't mean squat here. Shut your mouth." Aang, who had opened his mouth to protest, closed it. "All right then, let's go in, shall we?" he asked the two ANBU. "Remember, I'm relatively harmless." "Relatively harmless?" repeated Bear. "That means I can't kill you with my hands, but I can kill you with my feet." "Enough with the jokes, Naruto," Jiraiya told him. "He's not joking," Azula said, getting their attention. "He's done it before, to 5 different men at the same time." Everyone looked at the blonde when they heard that. He just shrugged. "What can I say? They were assassins and I was training myself with a handicap." The ANBU said nothing, they just took him into the room and Jiraiya followed. The others just took a seat and waited. They walked him to a chair and sat him down in it, removing the shackles on his hands off his sides and putting them on the arms of the chair. Once he was secured, they stepped away from the chair and into the shadows. "Do you understand why you are here, Naruto Uzumaki?" Tsunade asked him from where she sat, above the rest of the councils. "Of course I do," he answered. "What do you think the reasoning is?" "Because a bunch of inconsiderate shinobi assholes from Konoha don't know the meaning of the word no dot," he said with a completely straight face. "Watch your mouth, brat," one of the civilian councilmen yelled at him. "You will be respectful to Lady Tsunade." He looked at the councilman, then at the rest of the civilian council, and then at Tsunade. "Is this a new group?" Last time I checked, the civilian council didn't give two shits about you. Be quiet. Another councilman roared, standing up from his chair. Answers that question, it's a new council all right. He remarked, ignoring the two angry councilmen. We are not here to discuss the Hokage's choices for the civilian council. Inoichi, Ino's father and head of the Yamanaka clan, declared from where he sat to the right of Tsunade. Are you sure about that? They were the ones who spearheaded my last trial. Those councilmen have been imprisoned for their crimes, including the ones against you, Naruto. Choza, head of the Akimichi clan and Choji's father, told him, sitting to the left of Inoichi. Besides, this isn't a trial. Kiba's mother and head of the Inuzuka clan, Sum said, sitting close to Inoichi. Now that I have a hard time believing, Naruto declared. And what is so hard to believe about it? Hayashi, head of the Hyuga clan, Hinata's father and Niji's uncle, asked him from where he sat. Well, let's see here. I'm strapped to a chair, I've left Konoha, I've been found, captured, and now, you all are sitting on high and are waiting to condemn me. He said. He would have counted the points off of his fingers, if he could do that. Naruto Uzumaki, we are not here to condemn you. We are here to reinstate you as a Konoha shinobi. Shikaku, head of the Nara clan and Shikamaru's father, told him. He sat next Hayashi in a slightly slumped position. Pass. The blonde automatically said. Seriously, what part of no do you people not understand? Our understanding of the word is fine. The head of the Aburame clan and Shino's father, Shibi said from where he sat to the right of Hayashi. We thought it would be logical that you would be happy to return. Wow, you really are that stupid. He said after a moment of silence. Pop, the bending countries have been in a war for the past century. Sum told him angrily. I know, I've been fighting in it, and I'm sure you know I've defected. Now I'm helping the idiot and his team out. He said like nothing was wrong. You are safer here. Choza told him. But I was happier over there. He looked at all of them slowly, glaring hard. Over there, I was Naruto. I wasn't the demon brat, the Kyuubi brat, or the monster. People didn't look at me with contempt, hatred, or fear for that. And now, you want to take that away from me, all in the name of keeping me safe. And you wonder why I left in the first place. Enough. Tsunade said before anyone could speak. The decision is not up for debate. You will become a Konoha shinobi again, Naruto. You can't make me become a shinobi. He told her. I have the right to choose if I want to be one or not. Of course, you do. And if you choose not to become a Konoha shinobi, you will be imprisoned in order to ensure your safety. If that should happen, your friends will be allowed to leave. She told him. The expression on her face was completely professional when she spoke. But he knew what she was silently saying. You heartless bitch, he said. He knew full well that neither Azula nor the rest of them would just leave him alone. They would try to break him out. The problem was that if he was imprisoned, Tsunade would be expecting it and be prepared for it. They might be able to succeed in breaking him free, but if Aang told them not to kill anyone, a few of them wouldn't make it out alive. The shinobi would be prepared to kill them if they tried it. He also wouldn't want them to try to get him out if that was going to be the outcome. Tsunade had him trapped, and they both knew it. The two of them just stared at each other in silence. The rest of the councils weren't so quiet. The civilian council and some members of the shinobi council stood up and yelled at him, demanding that he should apologize or to be silent. Jiraiya just stood against the wall with an amused grin. This went on for about 5 minutes, until Tsunade blew a piercing whistle, silencing them. Are you all done now? She asked. But Lady Hokage, a councilwoman, protested. He called you a... I know what he called me. I do have ears. She replied, cutting the councilwoman off. She turned her attention back to Naruto. Regardless, those are your two choices. Now, which one will it be? It's not like I have a good choice either way. He replied with slumped shoulders. Fine, I'll become a Konoha shinobi again. There was a sigh of relief that rippled through the people in the room, particularly Jiraiya and Tsunade. Then I'm signing you up for the Chunin exams. The Hokage told him. Your teammates will. I'll pick my own teammates. He interrupted her. And why would you do that? Jiraiya asked, the first time he spoke during the meeting. I work better with people I know. Besides, you wouldn't want to find the 2 Konoha genin you assigned to me mysteriously dead, do you? He asked with a cold smile. They understood what he meant, even though he didn't outright say it. If they put 2 genin with him for the exams, he would kill them when he had the chance, without hesitation. Very well. Well, you may choose your teammates. Tsunade stated. The exams begin tomorrow at the academy. Great. Can I go now? He asked, moving his arms slightly to allow the shackles to make a noise. She nodded. The 2 ANBU stepped out of the shadows and unshackled his arms. Jiraiya will take you to your housing and will give you the application forms later. She told him. He didn't reply. He just walked out of the room behind Jiraiya. Well, that was uncomfortable. Inoichi stated. He had heard the reports of how the blonde was different, but they didn't really come to him until just now. He doesn't seem to hold us in high regard. Hayashi said. Can you blame him? Shikaku asked the Hyuga clan head. He ran away from us and after 3 years, he's brought back against his will, and is told to either become a shinobi or be imprisoned. I wouldn't really hold us in high regard either. I think we can all agree that the pup has changed. Some stated. Nobody disagreed. Location, Team Avatar. They walked out of the Hokage building and back down the street. The people in the street ignored them this time around, even though there was the occasional glare thrown at Naruto. So how did the meeting go? Suki asked as they walked down the street. I've been blackmailed into becoming a shinobi again. Naruto answered, sounding very annoyed with what happened. To make things worse, I've also been signed up for the Chunin exams, and I need 2 teammates. Who are you going to choose? Azula asked. She didn't know what that it was, but she guessed it was some kind of tournament. Not Aang or Katara, that's for sure. Why not? Asked an annoyed Katara. Death is involved in these exams. If my teammates don't have what it takes to kill someone, then they're not going to be much help. Last time I checked, your team managed to make it through the Chunin exams without killing anyone. Jiraiya told him. That was sheer dumb luck. The blonde kept walking and thinking over his options. Toph's out of the question too. This kind of thing needs finesse and quite frankly, she doesn't have that. No complaints here. Toph said. I'm considering this my mini vacation. No way am I doing any exams. She was just going to relax. So, then Sokka will be one of my teammates. He decided. Why's that? Zuko asked. His skill with the Jian and Boomerang will come in handy, as well as his training with the bending forms. Also, Akela will be a great help if we come up against any Inuzuka clan members. Thanks, Naruto. Sokka told him, feeling proud due to the praise. And who'll be your second teammate? Azula asked Naruto. Zuko, he answered. He looks intimidating, he's a master with those Dao swords, and he's good with seeing what people are really going to do. That's it? And I don't want to put you in that kind of danger, not if I can help it. He admitted after a moment of silence. Ah, that's so sweet. The more romantic minds of the group thought. Who knew you would have a way with girls, Naruto? And you've got a nice one too. Jiraiya commented with a big grin on his face. Just keep walking, you pervert. The blonde told him with a scowl. I'm not a pervert. He replied with indignation. I'm a super pervert. Could you please repeat that? Suki asked in calm and deadly voice. The rest of the girls had similar thoughts when they heard him. Suki, trust me. Naruto said to the Kyoshi warrior. If you think you'll be able to make him reconsider his ways, it won't matter. This guy has been on the receiving end of many beatings from angry women and has always bounced back. He regularly peeps at women in the bathhouse and in the hot springs here. You make it sound like I peep on every woman in there. Jiraiya commented. You mean you don't? He was surprised to hear that little tidbit of information. I have standards, Naruto. I don't peep on any girls who are under 16. He sounded a little offended as he spoke. But before anyone could say anything in response, he stopped in front of a building. We're here. Naruto looked up at the building, looked at Jiraiya, then back at the building. You cannot be serious. He finally said. Very. The Toad Sage replied. I think I'd rather be back at the prison. Too bad, because you're staying here. He stated before he grabs the blonde by the arm and essentially dragged him into the building that Naruto had once lived in. This place is different. He declared as Jiraiya let go of his arm, looking around the ground floor. This was a lobby the last time I checked, not a living room. Well, I think it looks pretty neat. Suki declared, looking around. It was big and comfy looking, with enough sofas and couches to make it look like it was a place to relax at the end of the day. The new tenants had the entire place renovated. It's more like a mansion than an apartment building now. Jiraiya explained. New tenants? Repeated Naruto, surprised by that. What new tenants? The place didn't really have any tenants when he had been living there. The Konoha 11 live here now. The Toad Sage explained. Hey, where are you going? He asked as Naruto started walking out of the building. Back to the prison, I'll stay there. He answered. He didn't get far due to the fact Jiraiya once again grabbed his arm. I am not staying here. The blonde protested. Yes, you are. He told him. If you don't like it, you can get over it. Now come on. The blonde was frog marched up the stairs and to the door that led to his apartment. Here's your key. Jiraiya said, handing him said key. He gave a sigh of defeat. He wasn't going to win this one. Fine, he said as he put the key in the lock and unlocked the door. Can we come inside? Katara asked, curious to see what Naruto's old apartment looked like. No. Jiraiya told them as the blonde walked into the apartment and closed the door behind him. Let's leave him to be reacquainted with his old home. He ushered them back down the stairs and into the living room. So, Kiba and the others really live here? Sokka asked as he sat down in a sofa. How did that happen? It started out with Sasuke. The Toad Sage began to explain. He wanted to get away from his clan's compound and the bad memories there. He heard that this building was to be demolished, and since he didn't want Naruto to be homeless when he came back, he used the clan's money to buy the entire building. He took one of the rooms and started to live there. Sakura soon joined him so he wouldn't feel so lonely, and Shikamaru followed, wanting to get out away from his house and live on his own for a bit. Kiba was the next one to join them, followed by Hinata. Neji began living here on Hayashi's orders to keep an eye out on Hinata. Pretty soon, the rest of the Konoha 11 had started living here and had the place renovated. So, what should we do now? Toph asked. You guys slept late due to the knockout gas. It's about late afternoon, why don't you go look around the main street? You might find something interesting. He made his way over to the front door. Where are you going? Katara asked him with a suspicious look. I have to go see the Hokage about some things. He answered without looking back. You kids enjoy yourselves. He opened the door and walked out onto the streets. They gather around one of the couches. Should we leave Naruto alone? Aang asked the rest of the team. It's probably best if we do. Azula answered him. I think he wants to be alone right now. She knew enough of her bodyguard to know what he was thinking most of the time. So, what, we do as the old guy suggested and take a look around the village? Toph asked. If we're gonna be here for a while, we might as well get to know the place. Sokka told her. Akela nodded his head once in agreement. Let's go then. We come back to see Naruto later. Zuko said. They walked out of the building, intent on exploring where they were stuck now, for that was what they were, stuck. Location, Naruto. He closed the door behind him and took a look around the place. Because of him being arrested and leaving soon afterwards, he had left the place somewhat messy. Now, it looked like it had been cleaned recently. So, who had the guts to come in here and clean up? He wondered aloud as he walked through the apartment. He walked into the kitchen, which looked spotless. He opened the fridge and looked inside. It was stocked with fresh food that had been bought recently. It looks like nothing's expired, he remarked, closing the fridge door. He walked over to the pantry and opened it up. Fresh food was also stocked there, along with plenty of something else. That is a lot of ramen, the QB declared as he looked at the abundance of instant ramen cups. They probably thought you would be craving the stuff after being away from it for 3 years. He didn't say anything in response. He just closed the pantry door and walked out of the kitchen. He made his way over to the bedroom. He stepped into the room and took a look. The room looked like the rest of the apartment, cleaned. The sheets on the bed even looked freshly laundered. Clothes lay on the bed, neatly folded and freshly pressed, along with a familiar-looking headband. I guess they knew you were coming, the fox commented. Are you not going to say anything, Naruto? They kept the CD player. He finally spoke, looking at said player. I'd figured they would have thrown it out, considering how old it is. It's not that old. You bought it when you were 10. He reached for the stack of CDs next to the player and picked up the one on the top. He looked at it before turning on the player. He opened up the case, took the disc out, put it into the player and hit the play button. Stardom Still Here, Jim's theme. As the song began to play, he put the case down and sat down against the wall. He closed his eyes and listened to the music as well as the lyrics. I am a question to the world, not an answer to be heard, or a moment that's held in your arms. And what do you think you'd ever say? I won't listen anyway. You don't know me, and I'll never be what you want me to be. And what do you think you'd understand? I'm a boy, no, I'm a man. You can't take me and throw me away. And how can you learn what's never shown? Yeah, you stand here on your own. They don't know me, 'cause I'm not here. And I want a moment to be real. Wanna touch things I don't feel. Wanna hold on and feel I belong. And how can the world want me to change? They're the ones that stay the same. They don't know me, 'cause I'm not here. And you see the things they never see. All you wanted I could be. Now you know me and I'm not afraid. And I want to tell you who I am. Can you help me be a man? They can't break me, as long as I know who I am. And I want a moment to be real. Wanna touch things I don't feel. Wanna hold on and feel I belong. How can the world want me to change? They're the ones that stay the same. They can't see me, but I'm still here. They can't tell me who to be, 'cause I'm not what they see. Yeah, the world is still sleepin', while I keep on dreamin' for me. And their words are just whispers and lies that I'll never believe. And I want a moment to be real. Wanna touch things I don't feel. Wanna hold on and feel I belong. And how can they say I'll never change? They're the ones that stay the same. I'm the one now. 'Cause I'm still here. I'm the one. 'Cause I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. And I'm still here, Jim's theme. As the song ended, he reached out and turned the player off. He didn't move from where he sat. You always did enjoy listening to that song, the QB said. He had lost count of the number of times his Jinchuriki had played that song. It always seemed to describe my life perfectly. He replied. I felt like the song was created for me. What about now? I'm not sure. My life has changed, but when I listen to that song, it feels like it hasn't changed at all. He gave a bitter chuckle. How ironic, people would lie to me and keep secrets from me. Now I'm doing the same things to my friends. He stood up and walked to the balcony door. Kit, what are you doing? I'm going to see a couple of people. He opened the door and walked into the balcony, looking down at the people below. We're probably not thinking of the same people, are we? The fox asked him. Probably not, he admitted before jumping over the railing and into the air. Location, Hokage office. Tsunade sat at the desk, looking over some paperwork, when she felt a familiar presence. Jiraiya, get in here. She ordered without looking up. He entered through the window. Was it necessary to sign him up for the Chunin exams? He asked her, looking at the back of her chair. If it were up to me, I'd promoted him as soon as he took the offer. She replied. But both the councils want to evaluate him. So we made a deal. If he makes it to the third stage, and at least to the semi-final round, he'll be given the rank. You know that he'll want to go back once the exams are over. He said, walking around to face her directly. And I will make it a mission. He and the members of the Konoha 11 here will be able to go back to the bending countries and stop the Fire Lord as well as help with the aftermath. And once that is all done, he will come back. The Hokage stated as they finally faced one another. And if he refuses? He asked her. He has friends over there, Tsunade. He's got a girlfriend too, if I'm not mistaken. He won't just leave them and never come back. He's not like that, and we both know it. If he refuses to come back to the village voluntarily, the Konoha 11 will have orders to knock him unconscious and bring him back. He'll just escape like the last time. He told her. No, he won't. If he has to be brought back forcefully, I will have no choice but to erase his memories of the past 3 years. She told him in a calm voice. What? He shouted, sounding completely surprised by that. Tsunade, you can't implant false memories in that long a time period. He's likely to go mad from that. I will not implant memories. I will simply tell him that his fight with Sasuke left him in a coma that lasted 3 years. What about the QB? It'll be likely that the fox will try to bring back those memories. We'll simply tell Naruto not to trust anything that the QB says. She answered in that same calm voice. She made it sound like she wasn't doing anything wrong. Tsunade, you can't do all of this. You can't do this to him. 3 years, Jiraiya. She said, her voice showing a small amount of emotion. We've both wanted him back for 3 years. Now that he's back, I'm not letting him go. He is ours, no one else's. And if I have to wipe his mind clean of 3 years of his life to keep him here, so be it. Are you doing this for Naruto? Or so the village can have its weapon back? She stood up and slapped him hard across the face. Never say something like that again, do you understand? Never again. I would not do all of this just so I could treat Naruto like a weapon. I want my Gaki back, and I will do whatever it takes to keep him. She sat back down in the chair. Leave. She ordered him. He left without saying a word. Location, Team Avatar. This place is incredible. Aang declared as they walked down the main street. street. I know. Suki agreed, looking around. There are so many things to see. It's so different from the places we've been to. Katara commented. It's so lively. The nightlife seemed to have a pulse of its own compared to what it was like during the day. But it was only the beginning of the night, and they hadn't seen much of the day. I can't imagine why Naruto would want to leave this place. Aang said. Details just seemed to leap out at them as they walked through the street. People seemed to be happy and laughing, unaware of any war going on the other side of the planet. Sometimes the streets were clustered and sometimes they were wide. Aang, remember the glares he got earlier today? Sokka asked. If he had to deal with that while growing up, I would probably leave too. Still, the others seemed determined to bring him back. Toph said as she took a turn around a tree. It might not have been entirely bad for him. I wondered what happened that made him leave. Zuko said. Naruto's been able to take anything that's been thrown at him. What in Agni's name would make him leave and never want to come back? Maybe we can ask them. Azula said, pointing down a particular street. The others looked at where she was pointing and saw Kiba, Akamaru, and Ino. The three also saw them. Perfect timing, Ino declared as she ran up to them. Quick, follow us. Why? Zuko asked. We're throwing a surprise welcome back for Naruto. Kiba quickly explained. You guys can help him ease in better. They all looked at each other. It didn't sound like that bad of an idea. Alright, where's the party at? Sokka asked them. Follow us. Ino told them before quickly walking away with Kiba and Akamaru right behind her. They quickly followed them through the streets until they finally stopped in front of what looked like a restaurant. What is this place? Aang asked them as he examined the place. It wasn't a huge place, just a modest one. Welcome to Ichiraka Ramen. Kiba announced as they walked in. I guess Naruto told all about this place. Actually, no he hasn't. Azula replied as they sat down. The place had been renovated as well, thanks to the Konoha 11 paying for said renovations, making the place big enough for 20 or so people to be seated comfortable. You're kidding. Choji said as he looked at her along with the rest of the Konoha 11 there, sitting along the bar. Naruto's never told you about this place? That's what I said. She told him. Did he tell you about ramen at least? Niji asked with a little concern in his voice. What is ramen? Zuko asked. I guess it's some kind of dish. Sokka said. What gave it away? Toph asked sarcastically. Kami, they're not kidding. Tenten said. They never would have thought this could have happened. Hey, Mr. Tucci. Called out Kiba, getting the attention of the man and his daughter. We need 7 bowls of miso ramen, stat. It's coming. Tucci told him as he and Ayam made the ramen. Why would you guys be surprised that Naruto wouldn't tell us about some kind of food? Aang asked, clearly confused by what they were saying. Because ramen was the only thing Naruto practically ate. Shikamaru answered. Whenever he had the chance to eat out, he would always come here. Tucci told them. He was our favorite customer. Ayam agreed. Which is why we're having the party here. Hinata finished up the explanation. Why here? Sokka asked. We left Naruto at his apartment. Ah, but you don't know Naruto like we do. Ino told him with a sly wink. Wink. He won't stay there. He'll leave and come straight here. So, you're planning to ambush him once he walks in, is that it? Azula asked. She was having doubts about their little plan. It's not ambushing. Shino defended. It is welcoming an old friend back by knowing where he'll go. Of course it is. The sarcasm in her voice was blatant and obvious. Everyone there heard it. Here's your ramen. Tucci announced, handing out bowls. Considering it's your first time here, this one's on the house. Dig in. Team Avatar took the bowls and a pair of chopsticks each. They were hesitant at first, but Suki raised the noodles to her mouth and ate them. This is good, she declared after she swallowed the noodles. The rest of them started eating and agreed with her. They could understand why Naruto kept coming back to this place. Zuko was about to ask them something when Hinata spoke. He's coming, she announced with her Byakugan showing. He's walking down the street and heading this way. Is everyone ready? Kiba asked, looking around and seeing that everyone was in position. Of course, we are ready to give our youthful friend a welcome back party, Lee declared. Keep it down, Lee, Tenten hissed in his ear. They didn't need to blow the surprise early. Wait, something's not right, Hinata said as she watched Naruto. What's the matter? Shino asked her. He's seen it, but he's not slowing down. He's walking right past it. What? Are you sure? Ino asked. That wasn't right, he was supposed to come here. Niji activated his Byakugan to double-check. She's right. He hasn't stopped. Then where is he going? Kiba demanded. Location, Naruto. He stood outside the building. Been a while since I've been here, he thought silently as he looked at it. Not being on the same continent for 3 years will do that for you. The QB commented with a small amount of sarcasm. You do realize that you're going to be smacked repeatedly once you go in, right? I'm expecting it. He walked up to the door and looked over at the bouncer. Hey, Bull. He greeted the man. Bull was like his namesake, big and bulky. He was also silent. He rarely spoke, so people were usually surprised when he did. He looked down at Naruto and his gaze hardened. Can I go in? The blonde asked. He stared at him for a second longer before nodding once. He thumped on the door twice. It opened and a beautiful young woman opened it. What is it, Bull? She asked. He jerked his head at Naruto, and she turned to look at him. The worried look she had on her face turned to anger, and before he could say anything, she smacked hard him in the face. How dare you? She said as he fell to the ground. Nice to see you again too, AI, he replied, standing back up. The smack still stung though. You have a lot of nerve showing your face here after what you did. I had to leave. You couldn't say goodbye, she demanded as her anger showed in her voice. We both know the answer to that, he replied. Tell that to Mama. Actually, that's why I'm here. What? She was genuinely surprised to hear that come out of his mouth. I came here to explain myself and talk to Mama, he told her, making sure each and every one of his words were clear. You're serious? She asked him. Yes, I am. She fell silent and then turned around. Come on in, she told him before walking through the door. He followed and Bull closed the door behind him. From across the street, both Team Avatar and most of the Konoha 11 watched as he entered the building. How can he go there of all places? Demanded Ino. What's wrong with it? Sokka asked. It's a restaurant, right? How can you think it's a restaurant? She asked back, making it sound like he was an idiot. He pointed up at the sign. It says the meat bar. Well, you're kinda right, a flustered Choji said. It is like a restaurant, but not quite. You're not making any sense, Toph told him. It was either a restaurant or it wasn't, that was how the blind earthbender saw it. Not all meats are for eating, Kiba said, trying to be polite about it. Now you aren't making any sense, she told him. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered to himself. The place is both a restaurant and a brothel. The name refers to the fact that you can get different kinds of meat in there and just the ones for eating. He explained. The entire team, save for Azula, was flabbergasted. You can do that? Sokka asked with a stunned voice. It's rare, but yeah. And Naruto just went in there? Aang asked. That was a little disturbing to even think about. You saw the same thing we did. Shino told him. How can Naruto be this unyouthful? Lee demanded in an angry voice. What are you talking about? Azula asked him. You can't see this? He just went into a brothel. Ino told her. She shrugged her shoulders. So? It's not like this is the first time he's done it. What? Screamed the members of the Konoha 11. Obviously, they took it the wrong way. What do you mean he's done this before? Katara asked as well. Just he goes into a brothel doesn't mean he's going to sleep with anyone there. She told them pointedly. It's possible that he has to apologize for something, if that smack was anything to go by. And just how would you know that? Niji asked. I already told you, this is not the first time he's done something like this. She repeated herself. Besides, he wouldn't betray me like that. What do you mean? Hinata asked, a little nervous by how she had said those words. We love each other. She stated. Everyone there, with the exception of Zuko, who thought it was plain as day, was stunned by that simple statement. While all the girls were wondering how that happened, all the guys, except Aang, who didn't really know what to make of it, and Shikamaru, who thought it was too troublesome, had one thought, which was lucky bastard. Now what are you all doing here? Jiraiya's voice asked from behind them, making them jump in surprise. They all turned to see the Toad Sage standing behind them with a questioning look on his face. We weren't doing anything. Aang quickly assured him. Of course, you weren't. He replied with a deadpan voice before looking at what they were looking at. Ah, the meat bar. I have such good memories of that place. He turned his gaze back on them. Why are you even looking at that place? Most of you are too young to even think about going in there. We're not going in there, but Naruto did. Kiba told him. Did he now? He looked back at the building. Oh, I want you all to do something for me. What's that, Lord Jiraiya? Hinata asked him, being respectful to the man. Go home. Get some sleep. He looked over at Team Avatar. You guys go back to the tree house and rest up. The two of you are going to need it. He told Zuko and Sokka, making Akela growl slightly. Sorry, the three of you are going to need it. He amended. Here are your application forms, just make sure to sign your name at the bottom. He handed them the forms. Now scoot. I'll have a talk with Naruto. Are you sure, Lord Jiraiya? Tenten asked. Of course, I'm sure. Go on, get out of here. They walked away down the opposite direction of the street. After a few minutes of silence, the old shinobi walked up to the door of the meat bar. Bull. He greeted the bouncer. May I go in? Bull nodded his head and opened the door for him. He gave a nod of thanks and walked in. Location, the tree house. Later that night, Zuko, Sokka and Akela were asleep in their rooms. The sound of the window opening woke them up, but they feigned sleep, so that they could throw off whoever was in the room with them. Would the three of you knock it off? Naruto's voice told them. I know that you're awake, so stop faking it. They opened their eyes and sat up, turning on the light at their bedsides while Akela simply raised his head. They saw Naruto sitting in a chair with the back facing them and his arms draped over it. Hanging from his mouth was something that Sokka had seen before. Naruto, why do you have a cigarette in your mouth? He asked, remembering the word for it. I've started smoking. He answered, taking a drag and blowing the smoke away from them. When did that happen? About an hour or so ago, he said. Quite frankly, after dealing with you guys and the things you do, I need it. I thought that was dangerous to your lungs or something like that. The tribesman asked, trying to remember the brief conversation he had with Asuma about them. It is. The blonde admitted. But I get all the benefits of smoking without getting any of the downsides. How is that possible? That's a secret. Why are you here, Naruto? Zuko asked him. I'm here about the Chunin exams. He answered, turning serious. Did you guys sign the forms? Yes, both of us did. He gestured to himself and Sokka as he said those words. Good, then we can get down to brass tacks. What do you mean? To put it simply, I am going to talk about tactics for the Chunin exam. The two of you. He stopped when Akela somehow managed to scowl at him and slightly bared his teeth. Sorry, the three of you are going to listen, and then share opinions. Are there any objections? They didn't answer that question, there was no need. They had none. Chapter 36, Bluffing and Speeding. Location, Konoha 11 Building. Ino stood outside of Naruto's door. Even though she had the key to the apartment, she was a little afraid to use it. Before Naruto had come back, his apartment was just a set of rooms they cleaned regularly. They may have reminded them of him, but it was memories of him 3 years ago, when he was hyperactive and had greeted them in a loud voice. Now, he was back, but completely different from what they remembered. Instead of being hyperactive, he usually stays calm and collected, if not a bit sarcastic, unless something really angered him. If that happened, he would not hesitate to show his anger. Instead of greeting them loudly or excitedly whenever he saw them, he looked at them like he didn't want to be anywhere near them. Perhaps it's a good thing that Sakura and her team are out of the village for 2 months. She thought to herself. If they were here, there would probably be a bloodbath. She turned her attention back to the door. Naruto, are you awake? She called out, hesitantly knocking on the door. Everyone is gathered downstairs for breakfast. We're waiting on you. There was no reply. Come on, Naruto. Since when have you passed up free food? There's plenty of ramen waiting. She kept knocking, losing the hesitation. When there was still no reply, she started banging on the door. Hey! We're trying to be nice to you and wait. Do you want us to start with you? And again, she got no reply. The door just stood there, mocking her by denying her the answer she wanted. Fine then, if you don't want any food, then go ahead and starve. She shouted before stomping away. She made down to the living room and then through the kitchen to get to the dining room. They usually didn't eat breakfast or lunch together, that was dinner. But this time, they wanted to eat with an old friend. That was the idea, at least. Is he not coming down? Hinata asked, the other members of the Konoha 11, minus Team Kakashi, standing and sitting around the big table. He didn't even open the door. She fumed. Are we going to wait for him or not? Choji asked his teammate. It's no skin off my nose if he doesn't want to come join us. She sat down at the table and began eating. But we did this for him. Kiba protested. What was the point of it if he didn't come down to eat with them? If he's going to be like this, there's nothing we can do about it. Niji told him. He is correct, Kiba. Shino said, sitting down alongside Niji. If Naruto does not wish to join us, then we can't force him. Why can't we? I don't know about you, but I would rather not get killed trying to force him to have breakfast with us. Shikamaru said. If he doesn't want to eat, he can starve. Tenten agreed. That's what I yelled at him. Ino said. Those who were still standing sat down and began to eat. They tried to have a conversation, but they didn't really feel like having one. The whole point of having this breakfast was for Naruto. It seemed he was doing his best to ignore them. They finished the food just as they heard people walking through the front door. "Hey, guys." Aang greeted them as he walked in with the rest of Team Avatar behind him. "Sorry if we're late. We had to feed both Appa and Fan Ing." That, and Momo kept running through the rooms. Katara commented. The lemur perked up when he heard his name. Then he saw the food on the table, and made a leap for it. Akela rolled his eyes as he watched this. "Don't worry, you're fine," Kiba assured them. "Where's Naruto?" Zuko asked, looking around. He didn't see the blonde anywhere nearby. "That jerk's probably still asleep." An annoyed Ino said, trying to focus on what she was eating instead of what they were talking about. "Is that so?" Azula asked with an amused smirk. "I'll take care of it." She walked over to the stars and climbed up them, leaving everyone else there. "Where are you going?" Toph asked as she felt Ino and a few others try to sneak up the stairs. "We want to see how she wakes him up," Ino answered. "It'll be fun to watch." "It's best if you don't," Zuko warned them. "Not unless you want get caught in the crossfire." "Crossfire?" repeated Ten. He nodded. "When Azula tries something, she'll give it her all and then some. But that's not always a good thing. Sometimes it gets her into problems." "Like what?" Lee asked. "From what I can tell, the officers who are in charge of training recruits have begged Naruto many times not to let her train with the recruits," he told them. "Apparently when she does, at least 20 people are sent to the hospital." "At least?" repeated Kiba. He sounded like he couldn't believe what he had just heard. "And that's on a good day." That stopped them from going up the stairs. They waited for a few minutes, listening for the sounds of fighting or an explosion. What they got was both Azula and Naruto walking down the stairs. "Now that's a way to be woken up in the morning," Naruto declared, looking at Azula with a grin. "I'm so glad you approve," she remarked. Although she tried to hide it, some of the people there could see the faint blush on her cheeks. "What did you do?" Katara asked her, being of the some who saw the blush. "She kicked the door open, walked in, and woke me up with a kiss," Naruto answered. "Are you serious?" Sokka asked, surprised that Azula would do something like that. He wasn't the only one, the other members of Team Avatar were surprised too. "Why would I lie about something like that?" He looked at him, Akela, and Zuko. "You guys have eaten, right?" "Yeah, we have," the tribesman replied. "Good, then let's get going." He started walking to the door. "What about you?" Zuko asked. "Shouldn't you get something?" "I had an apple." "Come on." The three of them decided to do as instructed and fell in him. "Hey, hold on," Ino said loudly, stopping them. Naruto turned around to face her. "Yes, Miss Harpy?" he asked with a pleasant voice that everyone could tell was a fake one. "What did you call me?" she demanded, getting angrier and standing up from her chair. "You hurt me." "What do you want?" Naruto, Hinata spoke up. "Why aren't you wearing the clothes we set out for you, or your headband? You're still wearing your prisoner uniform." "That's because I am a prisoner," he answered. "Until we leave this place, I will consider myself a prisoner of Konoha." He turned back around and walked out of the place. Zuko, Sokka, and Akela were right behind him. "You really consider yourself a prisoner?" Zuko asked him as they went down the street. "I just said that, didn't I? Last time I checked, a prisoner couldn't walk around the village freely," the scarred dragon pointed out. Granted, people were trying to avoid them, but the blonde was walking freely. "Look at the top of the building on your left." The blonde waited as Zuko turned his head to look at the building in question. "You see him?" Yeah, I see him. He saw an ANBU agent on top of the building, looking down and keeping track of them. Sokka, look at the roof 2 buildings down. What am I? The tribesman began to ask, only to stop. Oh, I see him. He saw an ANBU agent as well, keeping an eye out on them. Just because I can walk freely, doesn't mean there aren't guards keeping an eye on me. Naruto told them as they turned a corner. If you hate this place so much, why don't you just destroy it? You have the ability to soul bend. Why don't you just take control of that swordsman you knew from Kozan or someone similar and burn this place to the ground? The blonde stopped walking and stood in the middle of the road. Without any warning, he spun into a roundhouse kick, throwing it at Sokka, who jumped back to avoid it. Whoa. What did I say? He asked. Akela drew his lips back, baring his fangs, and began to growl slightly. So, everyone in this village is deserving of my hatred? Naruto asked in a growl. Does that include the children born after I was? Does it include the newborns that were given life after I had left? Or the kids who are growing up with no knowledge of who I am? How about strangers I have never met? Wait, what are you talking about? Think, Sokka. He ordered. You're supposed to be the smart one of the groups. What did the Konoha 11 tell you about this place when they traveled with you? Just a few general things, like it was a village of shinobi, it was in the land of fire, which is considered one of the 5 great shinobi countries. He remembered that particular conversation quite well. It took them a while to convince him that the land of fire was not the Fire Nation. So you think nothing would happen if I destroyed Konoha? It's the land of fire's main source of strength. What would happen if I took away that source? The land of fire would crumble and fall. Zuko realized that quickly enough. Creating what? The blonde pressed them. A power vacuum, Sokka said, seeing where this was going. And a power vacuum on that scale will lead to war. It could quite possibly be the bloodiest, chaotic and destructive war this side of the planet has ever seen. And you want me to condemn thousands, if not millions of lives to a possible death just because I have no love for one village? I'm sorry. I didn't think of it like that. The tribesman apologized. Naruto calmed himself down and turned back around. You need to stop being so gung-ho about things, Sokka. Not everyone is guilty for what happened to me. He started walking again and they followed. They walked in silence for a couple of minutes. Shouldn't we get to the academy? Zuko finally dared to ask. The Chunin exams start soon. We're getting there. He answered. Actually, hold on. He stopped and looked at a store. Without saying a word to the others, he turned and walked into the store. Location, Hokage office. Tsunade sat back in her seat, taking a small break from the paperwork. Lady Tsunade. Shizen said as she walked into the room. What is it? The Hokage asked her. Were you really going to erase Naruto's memories? Who told you that? Was it Jiraiya? She asked her assistant, making it sound like she was angry. No, he didn't. I was outside the door yesterday, and I heard you talking about erasing Naruto's memories. Tears began to glisten in her eyes. Why would you do something like that? Don't start crying, Shizune. You're a shinobi. As she said those words, her eyes flickered around the room, checking and double-checking everything. Shizune nodded and wiped the tears off. But why would you do it? It's the best for everyone. You would be keeping him from people he knew for 3 years. She accused her sensei. That's only if he refused to come back. Tsunade replied, keeping her voice even. If he came back of his own accord, I'd allow him to visit them. But his first duty would be to Konoha. You know he has a rank of high standard in the bending countries. People would notice if the paragon of the Fire Nation wasn't around. We'd give him time to train his replacement and then have him come back. He doesn't belong over there, he never has. It doesn't matter if he belongs there or not. Shizune protested. Don't you want him back as well, Shizune? The Hokage asked her. Of course I do. But why do you have to go to such lengths? Because I want him back, she answered, looking away. You might think badly of me, but it really is the best for everyone. It won't be for Naruto though. You're just being selfish. Her assistant accused her. I know. She admitted. Location, Academy. They stood in front of the academy doors. So, we're supposed to go in there? Zuko asked. When he didn't get an answer, he looked back. Naruto? Naruto didn't answer him. He just stared at the swing lying still underneath the tree. He sat on the swing, looking at the kids who had just become shinobi and their parents. Everyone looked so happy, the parents wore proud smiles on their faces. There, you see him? He heard one mother say. It's that boy. Another mother said. I heard he's the only one who failed. Well, it serves him right. Just what would happen if he became a shinobi? I mean, he's the boy who. SSSHH, we're not allowed to talk about that. Naruto, hey, Naruto! Shouted Sokka. He winced at the volume of the tribesman's voice. Ah. Don't do that, I'm not deaf. He said. Well, you were spacing out for a minute. Sorry, I was, reliving old memories. He looked back at the swing. The memories had faded away for now. But he felt like more would show themselves if he wasn't careful. Do you want to talk about it? Not right now and not with you guys. Let's just get this thing started. He turned around and walked into the academy. Zuko, Sokka, and Akela followed him. They walked through the hallway on the first floor before reaching the end and climbing up the stairs. Why would you put the stairs at the end of the hall? Zuko asked aloud as they went up to the next floor. Wouldn't it be better to put them next to the entrance? A little walking never hurt anybody. Naruto told him. Except maybe for Aang, he would complain the entire time. They all thought about it and silently agreed on that fact. Aang would complain, he would complain loudly. They went into the second floor hallway and saw people gathered around a door. The sign above the door said 301. Hang on, that can't be right. Zuko said quietly. Aren't we on the second floor? Don't say anything, Zuko. Naruto ordered him. The same goes for you, Sokka. We just keep on walking. They made their way through the small crowd and then continued down the hallway. The crowd of Chunin behind sniggered and called them losers and idiots. We're the idiots? Sokka asked once they were out of sight. They're the ones who think it's the third floor. Akela nodded once in agreement. You guys don't really know what Jinjutsu can do to you. Those Chunin do, so the Jinjutsu caught them in its trap. The blonde explained as they climbed the stairs to the third floor. Hey you! Shouted a voice from below. They looked down and saw another Chunin standing on the floor beneath them. Judging from his headband, he was from Konoha. The blonde one, I'm talking to you. He shouted up at them. Naruto turned his head slightly and looked down at him. What do you want? He asked, sounding like he was bored. I know who you are. You're Naruto Uzumaki, right? What about it? I want you to fight me. The Chunin demanded. Naruto was silent for about a minute as he stared at the kid. Finally, he turned his head away and kept on walking, the other three following him. Hey, don't ignore me! The kid screamed. They did just that and kept on walking, only to stop when the kid leapt up to in front of them, making them stop. Get out of the way! Naruto ordered him in a calm voice. Not until you fight me. I've heard stories about you, and I want to see if you live up to them. No one said anything as Naruto slowly looked him over. What's the matter? You scared? The kid taunted. I'd be surprised if you weren't. I was the rookie of the year in my class. They said I was the best prodigy that Konoha had since Sasuke Uchiha. Again, no one said anything. Once he was done looking over the kid, he saw that his teammates had arrived and were cheering him on. Are you scared of me that you won't attack me? Then I'll attack you. He charged forward and threw a punch at him. To both his teammates and his surprise, his punch was effortlessly caught. For the record, Naruto told the kid as he held the fist in a tight grip. I was trying to decide whether I should just break your arm or cut it off. Lucky for you, I decided the lesser of two evils. He broke the kid's arm with ease, making him howl in pain. He then punched him swiftly in the solar plexus, cutting off the hull. And he finally threw the kid back down to the floor, sending him crashing down in front of his teammates. As the kid's teammates tried to get him back up, the members of Team Avatar who were doing the Chunin exams left. Wasn't that a little harsh? Sokka asked Naruto as they kept on walking. No. He answered. If anything, that was a kindness. That kid was fresh out of the academy. He thought he was hot stuff and good enough to take the Chunin exams so soon after graduating. If he and his teammates kept up that attitude, they would have been dead within 5 minutes. But didn't you do the same thing? Zuko asked him. Like I said, we got through by sheer dumb luck. They stopped in front of a door at the end of the hallway. You guys ready? He asked them. Both Akela and Zuko nodded. Let's go show them who we are. Sokka declared. Couldn't have said better myself, he said with a grin. He walked up to the door and kicked it open. The doors slammed loudly as they opened, getting everyone's attention as they walked into the room. There are a lot of people here. Sokka thought quietly as they walked in. He probably had spoken a little too soon. Will we have to fight them all right here and now? Zuko asked himself. We might not last, let alone win. Naruto didn't say anything. He just led them to the side of the room and leaned against the wall. Zuko did the same while Sokka sat down on the floor with Akela. The entire room was silent as everyone there stared at them. They had all heard about Naruto Uzumaki and the things he did in the elemental countries. They had heard about the battle in the Land of Waves, which got a bridge named after him. The last Chunin exams he partook in, which ended with the invasion from Oto and Suna, and him beating the current Kazekage. The mission he took with Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, to bring the Slug Princess, Tsunade, back to the village so she could be Hokage. And of course, they had heard of the mission to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha, and the almost legendary fight the two of them had. But after that, all they heard was that he had escaped from the village, and had disappeared for 3 years. And now, he was back. When he felt the stares, Naruto looked up and stared right back at them. You people got something to say? He asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Or are you all just that bored? 3 people walked out of the crowd and over to them. The person in the middle had white hair and purple eyes. He wore a purple shirt and gray pants. He wore a belt around his waist that held a bottle of water. Another belt was around his chest, and strapped to the back of it was a sword that both Sokka and Naruto knew well enough, though they didn't let anything show on their faces. Between the 2 belts was a headband showing that he was from Kuzugakure, the village hidden in the grass. The girl on his left wore glasses. She also had red hair and red eyes. Her hair was particularly odd. On the right side, it was short and unkempt, and, on the left, it was long and straight. She wore a lavender-colored shirt with long sleeves, but exposed her navel. She wore black short shorts and black stockings going all the way up her legs. She wore her headband around her forehead. The man on his right was tall. He had orange hair and orange-red eyes. His face was one of calmness. They couldn't see his shirt or his pants, due to the fact they were covered by a cloak. His headband hung around his neck. "Well, look who we have here." The white-haired one spoke with a grin, showing the pointed teeth he had. "Naruto Uzumaki in the flesh, it is an honor." He gave a mocking half-bow. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Suigetsu Hozuki. These are my teammates, Karen and Yugo." Naruto didn't say anything, neither did Zuko or Sokka. "So, where have you been for the past 3 years?" Again, he didn't say anything. "Oh, so you've become one of those tough silent people, right?" The grin he wore became bloodthirsty. "Just so you know, you're dead when we meet in combat. I've heard stories about you, and I want to see if you live to the reputation. Or are you too scared?" "Lay off him, you idiot," Karen told her teammate. Naruto still didn't say anything. He reached into the prison uniform's back pocket and pulled out the pack of cigarettes he had bought from the store. He took one, put it in his mouth and put the rest back. He then dug around in his right pocket before pulling out the Zippo lighter he had bought with the cigarettes. Flicking the lid open, he lit the cigarette and took a drag. As he put the lighter away, he took the cigarette out and blew smoke in Suigetsu's face, making him step back and cough. "So, you thought you could make yourself sound and look tough by threatening me, is that it?" he asked. "Congratulations, you've succeeded in making yourself a braggart. They're the ones who usually go first. That's it. You're dead, Uzumaki." Suigetsu snarled. He was about to leap for him, but Karen held him back. The other teams began to whisper among themselves as this went on. "Calm down, idiot. We can't start a fight," she told him. Naruto, Zuko and Sokka just watched this go on for a couple of minutes. "So, how is your master?" Naruto finally asked as Suigetsu calmed down. "Is he here?" "Master, what are you talking about?" Yugo asked, finally speaking. "Do you not understand? Alright, I'll ask you again. How is Orochimaru doing and is he here?" The entire room went silent when they heard that. "What the hell? How is Orochimaru our master?" "We're from Kusa, you idiot." Karen all but yelled at him. "Besides, why would Orochimaru come here again? He'd be attacked on the spot the minute he stepped through the gate. So, he's not here. That's a pity." He took another drag and blew smoke in the air. "I was hoping to get the bastard myself." "Ha! Who's talking tough now?" Suigetsu asked with a laugh. "Besides, what makes you think that we serve Orochimaru? The Kubikiribocho is strapped to your back. I know only 2 kinds of shinobi who take it from someone's grave. One kind has the right, the other's master just wants more power. The first would be shinobi from Kiri and the other is from Oto. And since you're not from Kiri, you're probably from Oto." The blonde explained in a level tone of voice. "Guess what, pal? You're wrong. We're from Kusa. You can tell by our headbands." He sneered, jabbing at his headband. "Of course you are," he replied with condescending sarcasm as he took another drag. "Well, where are your headbands? I thought you'd be a Konoha shinobi if you were here. But I don't see a headband." He gave a cold smile. "Look down at my feet, you'll see it," he told the so-called Kusa shinobi. He did, and that was when Naruto kicked him hard underneath the chin. He flew back and his head burst into water. Everyone stared in shock at the body on the floor. The shock turned to surprise when water started to float back to the body and formed Suigetsu's head. "That's a hell of a kick you've got there," he said as he stood back up, ready to start a fight. "Kit, look at his teammate," the QB warned his host. He turned and looked at Yugo, who was muttering to himself and beginning to wear a crazed grin. Murderous intent began to roll off of him. I'll kill him. I'll kill him. He chanted within his mind as the skin around his neck began to turn dark. But before he could even do anything, or before his teammates could stop him, he felt an immense amount of killing intent directed at him. It was coming from Naruto, and it showed him several different versions of him dying. Some of them were excessive, some of them were extensive, some of them were gory, and all of them were painful. If you want to live, I'd recommend you curb your lust for killing people. The blonde told him. His murderous side had never disappeared so quickly. He was left standing in fear of the blonde, who had turned his gaze and his killing intent on the rest of the people there. You all probably think that you're good enough to take these exams, and you also think you'll be able to pass and become a Chunin. But I've got one question for you all. He took a drag. How many of you tenderfoot pussies have been in a war? How many of you have watched people you've known get killed right before your eye? How many have you tried to save their life, only to fail and watch that life leave their eyes? How many people here have come to within an inch of dying multiple times, only to be saved by some sort of luck? As he asked these questions, he slowly made the killing intent bigger. The others there began to hallucinate. They saw what he described and began to get more and more scared. Akela had pulled his nose away in disgust once he had smelt the amount of pants being soiled. You're trying to become a Chunin, which means you're going to get missions like that, where people will die and it might be your fault. If you're able to take that, then please stay. For those of you who can't, the killing intent, which had many Chunin there almost turned into blubbering babies wanting their mommy, disappeared. The door is right there. He pointed at said door. Get out. The rush to get out of the room could almost be classified as a stampede. Chunin ran over others trying to get out of the room. They fled from the person who seemed to indirectly promise them a very painful and very bloody death should he find them. By the time they had fled, less than half remained in the room. The remaining Chunin weren't terrified of Naruto, it was more like disturbed. Both Zuko and Sokka looked at Naruto with a new level of respect. If he could do something like that to an entire room full of shinobi, it was no wonder he was able to take control of Boss Sing Se away from Long Phone. Thought so, Naruto thought to himself. That was too easy. But fun. The Kyuubi said. Oh yeah, it was definitely fun. Damn, he is good. Suigetsu admitted as he watched all of this happen. His amazement soon turned to eager anticipation. I can't wait to fight him. What was up with that chakra? Karen wondered, looking at Naruto with a small amount of fear in her eyes. What was he doing for the past 3 years that enabled him to something like that? A huge cloud of smoke burst into existence, getting everyone's attention. Once the cloud dispersed, Ibiki Marino along Inoichi Yamanaka stood in front of a group of Chunins. Listen up. Ibiki roared. My name is Ibiki Marino, and this is Inoichi Yamanaka. We are the proctors for the first exam and now, we are your worst enemies. Hold on. Inoichi said, looking at the genin. This is less than half of the genin who signed up for the exams. Where are the rest of them? All the genin there looked over at Team Avatar, more specifically, at Naruto, who was currently taking a drag and blowing smoke. He finally noticed the stares. What? He asked, taking the cigarette out of his mouth. Naruto, what did you do? Ino's father asked him. He shrugged. Nothing much, they wanted to know if the stories they heard about me were true, so I told them a few things. Next thing you know, most of them are trying to get out of the room. Put that out. Ibiki ordered him, pointing at the cigarette in his mouth. He took it out, dropped it and snuffed it out with his foot. There, you happy now? He asked. Ecstatic. He answered before turning his attention to the rest of the genin there. If we are all ready, all of you hand in your paperwork. Once you hand in the paperwork, you will be given a number. He held a small piece of paper up with the number 1 on it. The number you receive will determine where you will sit. Once you are all seated, we will begin the written exam. They all handed in the application form they had been given and had signed. They were told to sit in particular seats. Team Avatar sat very far apart from each other, but that didn't make them nervous. They remembered the talk they had the previous night. Flashback. Alright, the first exam we're going to have is a written exam. Naruto told the other three from where he sat. We'll be graded as a team, but they'll keep us separated. Why would they do that? Sokka asked. The questions on the exam will be incredibly difficult. Odds are that I probably won't be able to answer them right off the bat. But that's okay, because we're not going to answer them. Wait, you lost me. Zuko admitted. The whole point of this exam is to see how well you can gather information. There will be Chunins mingled into the Chunin there in order to provide the answers. Other Chunin will be seating on the sides and will be keeping an eye on us. If they see us cheating, they'll mark us. If they marked one of us 5 times, we'll fail and get kicked out. So, we would have to cheat in such a way that they won't be able to catch us. Sokka summarized. That would be right, if we were going to actually take the test. But as I said before, we're not going to do that. This is what we're going to do. End flashback. Naruto looked behind. They had placed Sokka in the back on the far right and Zuko on the far left. He was up in the first couple of rows. I guess they think we have some sort of silent communication. He thought. Can you say overly paranoid? The QB asked. Gleefully, he answered. Remember, you only have an hour to complete this exam. Inoichi reminded all of them. The 10th question will be given in the last 15 minutes. He looked at the clock. When it struck the top of the hour, he told them to begin. They took hold of their pencils and stared down at the test. Some of the genin managed to figure out what the purpose of the test was right away and began to cheat. Others took a little longer to understand. They tried to keep calm under the gaze of the Chunins watching over them, trying not to think if they were the ones who were marked every time they wrote on the clipboard they held. The hour dragged on, the ticking of the clock unnerving a few of them. While the Chunins watched all of the genins, both Ibiki and Inoichi were watching Naruto and his teammates. While they did occasionally write something down on the papers in front of them, they just sat in silence, waiting for the time to go out. Out of nowhere, one of the Chunin threw a kunai at the genin next to Naruto. It struck his paper, tearing a hole in it. What the? The genin said in surprise, shaking from the fright. What was that all about? He asked the Chunin. We caught you cheating 5 times. He answered. You failed the test. What? No way. There's gotta be a mistake. How would you know if I? Oh, just shut up. Naruto spoke, surprising everyone. The guy said you failed. If that was what he said, then you and teammates get your sorry asses out of here. He reached over and pulled the kunai out of the table. You don't mind if I use this, do you? He asked the Chunin. When he didn't receive an answer, he started to pick at his nails with the kunai. Candidate number 15, fail, the Chunin announced as he walked over and took the kunai from Naruto. Number 86 and 54, fail. The 3 genin stood up and walked out of the room. Once the team was gone, it had sent the ball rolling. Every couple of minutes, another team would be failed and sent out of the room. Some would protest, which would result in them getting slammed into the walls by one of the Chunin or just being dragged out of the room. And all the while, the clock kept on ticking. You know, I can see why they don't use a digital clock. Naruto mused. It helps with the mind games. Funny. I always thought it was there to annoy the hell of the genin. The QB replied. It's the same basic principle. Finally, after what felt like a millennium to some, 45 minutes had passed. Very well, Inoichi said, getting everyone's attention. We will now give you the 10th and final question. But first, Ibiki continued. There are a few more rules we need to tell you. While he explained the rules, Team Avatar remembered last night. Flashback. When it comes time for the last question, the Proctor will hit us along with the rest of the Chunin with a mind game. Naruto told them. He'll give 2 options. The first is to skip the 10th question. If one Chunin does choose to skip the question, both he and the rest of his team fail, and will be sent out of the room. Seems like the lesser of 2 evils, going everything you've said so far about the first exam. Zuko noted. It is. The second choice is to stay and take the question. If you answer the question incorrectly, you and your team will fail as well as be barred from taking the Chunin exams ever again. So you either take the safe route or take a risk and possibly fail permanently, huh? Sokka asked for clarification. That's the gist of it. But all we have to do is very simple. End flashback. Now that we have explained the rules, those of you who wish not to take the question, raise your hand. Inoichi ordered. Your number will be recorded, and then you'll be able to leave. Everyone was silent. With the exception of 3, all of them were completely and utterly nervous. No one was sure who would raise their hand first, they just knew who did would start the others off. I give up. A Chunin in the back stood up and raised his hand. Sorry guys, I just can't do it. Number 128, fail, one of the Chunin announced. Number 34, number 81, you fail too. The 3 Chunin rose up from their chairs and left the room. Sure enough, that started the dominoes. Other Chunin stood up and chose to skip the question. They and their teammates left the room, some were glaring the one who gave up to death. Are you not going to say anything, Naruto? Ibiki asked the blonde with a smirk, remembering what he did in his last exam. Why should I? He asked back. It's a sink or swim world out there. Some of the people decided to sink while others decided to swim. He fell silent after those words while other Chunin gave up. By the time the last team left, less than a third of the people who took the test were left. There are only 24 left. Inoichi thought to himself. This was biggest amount of Chunin who had signed up for the Chunin exams. If Naruto hadn't said anything, no doubt this would be larger. Now that all those who had given up have now left, there is only one thing left to say. Ibiki said. All of you have passed the first exam. The silence in the room was almost deafening. Wait, what? Karen shouted, standing up. What the hell do you mean we passed? What is the 10th question? There was no 10th question. Inoichi told her. Not a written one. Your decision to stay was the answer we needed. As both he and Ibiki explained what the exam was all about and what was supposed to happen during it, both Zuko and Sokka shared the same thought. Can we move on, please? Finally, it's over. Naruto thought as he stretched in his seat. Still don't like written exams, huh? The QB asked with a chuckle. Of course, I'm just glad I only have to deal with reports nowadays. You mean you used to only have to deal with reports? Besides, you didn't write anything on the paper. You mean anything they wanted to see? For those of you who have answered the last question successfully, you have earned the right to move on to the next exam. Ibiki declared. As the first exam is now officially done, there is nothing left but to wish you all good luck. And in 3, 2, 1. The fox counted down. As soon as he was done, a black ball smashed through the window. As it flew through the room, it began to unfurl. 2 kunai were thrown at the ceiling which held the thing up. It revealed itself to be a banner, along with a woman. Her hair was black with a blue tint to it, which she had done up in a short, spiky ponytail. Her eyes were purple and pupil-less. She wore a mesh suit that went from her thighs to her neck and was also form-fitting. She wore an orange miniskirt and a tan overcoat along with the mesh suit. She wore a pendant around her neck, shin guards, and her headband was worn around her forehead. But before she could say anything, Naruto spoke first. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began in a loud voice. "Allow me to introduce our proctor for the second exam. She is a woman who can kick your ass 6 ways to Sunday and back using nothing but a dango stick and a smile. I give you the one, the only, Anko Mitarashi." Anko couldn't say anything. She had been caught off guard. Damn it, that was better than what I was planning to say. She thought to herself, it was the only thing she could think. "Anko, you're early," Inoichi told her as he stepped out from behind the banner. Again, Ibiki stated as he followed Inoichi. "Sorry, I got excited," she told them. "But never mind me, you two did a fairly impressive job. Only 8 teams left. And this was the biggest amount of Chunin we've ever had for the Chunin exams. This wasn't all of us. Before we got here, half had left," Ino's father told her. "What? How did that happen? Did they chicken out?" "In a sense." She followed his gaze and saw Naruto sitting in his seat with indifference. "Hello, crazy snake lady," he said to her. "Are you going to molest me again?" "I don't know. No," she replied, sounding like what he had said didn't embarrass her. "Are you going to act tough again?" "I don't need to act now," he replied, completely confident. "Oh? Are you sure about that?" "Of course, I am. And I've become a bit of a mind reader very recently. I can tell you what all the Chunin here are thinking right now." "And what is that?" He wore a fox-like grin on his face. "They're thinking, is she wearing a bra underneath that or not?" The Chunin all looked at him in surprise. That was what they were thinking. The boys were thinking it with hormones and lust mixed in. The girls were thinking it with equal parts shock, curiosity, and disgust. Zuko and Sokka simply thought the question with curiosity. They had girlfriends. If they had used any other kind of emotions in the thought process, they knew that the ladies would somehow find out. Akela really didn't see what the fuss was about. If Anko wasn't blushing before, she was now. "Anyway, if you maggots want to get to the second exam, follow me." She hurriedly strode out of the room, partly to get the second exam started and partly to avoid being caught off guard like that again. All of the Chunin got up and followed her, the last being Team Avatar, who just sauntered out of the room. After 5 minutes of silence, Ibiki looked over at a pair of Chunins. "Cut that down, would you?" he told them, jerking his thumb at the banner. As they did that, he turned to Inoichi. "Might as well start collecting the papers," he said. Might as well," he agreed. They started at opposite ends of the room and worked their way through the rows. He reached for Naruto's paper, picked it up and saw that none of the questions were answered. "That's odd," he thought to himself. "I saw him write on the paper." Deciding to check the back, he flipped it over. His eyes widened as he looked over what was there. "Ibiki, you need to read this," he said. When he noticed that Ibiki was looking at 2 different papers, he hurried over. "What's the matter?" "These are the papers for Naruto's teammates," Ibiki said. "There's nothing on them," he noted, looking at the blank papers. "What they wrote is on the back." He flipped them over. On the back of each paper was writing. It seemed that Sokka and Zuko had taken their particular sections of the room and had carefully written down how each person in their sections was cheating. There were also numbers, who was whose teammate and whether or not they were helping each other. For every Chunin that had been failed, their number and descriptions were crossed out. I can't help but be impressed. They managed to write all of that without us noticing. I think you should take a look at Naruto's paper. He handed Ibiki said paper, and he looked at it. On the back were the numbers for each candidate. But instead of knowing how they were cheating, the paper described the best way to kill each and every one of the candidates. It also took note of the Chunin as well as him and Inoichi, but it was for incapacitating, not killing. What chilled them to the bone was what was written at the bottom. Estimated duration of bloodbath once Chunin and Proctors are incapacitated, 10 to 15 minutes, depending on reactions and capability to defend oneself. This was written by the kid who didn't answer a single question the last time he took the exam? Ibiki asked in disbelief. There's more. Inoichi told him, pointing at the very bottom of the paper. He looked at where he was pointing to and read what was there. P.S. Of course, I wasn't going to kill them. I just wrote this out of sheer boredom. Do you think we should show these to the Hokage? It's probably for the best, even though they'll be destroyed once she sees them. Inoichi told him. Why would she do that? He had never heard of an exam paper, failed or passed, being destroyed once the Hokage had finished reading it. Sorry, Ibiki, but that's classified. Only the Hokage and a select few know. And you're one of those few? Yes. He looked around to make sure the Chunin weren't paying attention, obviously or subtly. How serious is this? He whispered. If we fail, the village might be destroyed. What exactly is this place? Suigetsu asked as he looked past the fence. All he could see was a large forest. Welcome, boys and girls, to training ground number 44, also known as the Forest of Death. Anko said in a cheery voice. You know. Sokka said as he looked at the forest. I was honestly expecting something a little more original. You can't get everything you want, Sokka. Kurenai, who was the other proctor for the second exam, told him. Hey, I'm not complaining. He told her, also noticing that her pregnancy was much more obvious now. So tell me, Anko, how's the love life? Naruto asked her. Why would you want to know? She asked back. Well, I figured that you really didn't have one, considering the way you were molesting me last time. He remarked casually. She huffed. For your information, I happen to be seeing someone. She's not kidding, is she? He asked Kurenai. No, she's not. Is it seeing someone or stalking someone? Honestly? There are days when we're not sure. Who's the guy? Your old instructor, Irika Yumano, she answered. Dumbstruck, he looked at Anko, then back at Kurenai, back to Anko, and then back to Kurenai. I don't know whether I should be happy for him or pity him. He finally said. Hey. What's that supposed to mean? Anko demanded. You hurt me. Anyway, Kurenai said loudly, stopping the both of them from going any further. Before we begin, we have something to hand out to you. Anko pulled out a small stack of papers from inside her overcoat. Before the exam begins, we will need you to read over and sign this consent form. Some of you will probably not make it out alive. We need your consent to that risk. Otherwise, it'll be on us. She told them all. That made everyone start whispering amongst themselves. Naruto, Sokka, and Zuko didn't. They just remembered the conclusion of last night's conversation. Flashback. The second exam will be a survival exam. Naruto told them. They'll have us do the exam in the Forest of Death. In the center of the forest is a tower, which will be the goal. How do you know all of this, Naruto? Zuko asked him. You're describing what the proctors of each exam will do to us. You also know how each exam works. How can you know this stuff when you haven't been here for 3 years and spent the majority of the first day back in a jail or with someone else? It depends on the person. Anyway, how I got the information is not important right now. He told them, waving it off. What is important is what's going to happen. So, what's going to happen? Sokka asked. They'll make each of us sign a paper that says if we die in the forest, it's not their fault. Once we hand in those papers, we will be given either an earth scroll or a heaven scroll. As soon as we walk into that forest, we will have to hunt down any teams that have the second scroll we need while also protecting our own. I take it the scrolls are what we need to get into the tower. Zuko asked. Correct. We'll also be given 5 days to get another scroll and get to the tower. So, we will have 5 days to get a scroll and find the tower, is that it? The only answer he got was a grin. End flashback. They had turned in the consent form and got an earth scroll in return. They were then led to one of the gates surrounding the forest. As the time for the exam to begin got closer, the Chunin with them opened up the gate. They kept checking the watches on their arms, and when it was the top of the hour, they opened up the gate. Location, Kusa team. They charged into the forest at top speed. So, who should we target first? Yugo asked. Who cares about that? I want to find Uzumaki. Suigetsu said with an evil grin. Ugh, we're in the middle of an exam, idiot. Karen told him with annoyance. I know we have orders, but we don't have time for you to get your kicks. Shut up, woman. He shouted at the redhead. Uzumaki is the strongest person in these exams. I can almost hear Kubikiribocho calling for his blood. Are you sure it's not yourself that's calling for his blood? Yugo asked him. You're one to talk, Yugo. We both saw what you were going to do before those proctors showed up. I'm not denying that didn't happen. It's because of that I believe we should not go after Naruto Uzumaki right now. What about our orders? Lord Orochimaru's information on him was limited and outdated. We knew that going into this. Yeah, but that's why Lord Orochimaru sent you with us. Karen pointed out. He knew that you might be able to level the playing field against him. And looked what happened to me when I almost lost control. He gave me one look and I was scared. No, scared is too gentle of a word. I was terrified of him. The other two just looked at him. They had never thought that Yugo of all people would be terrified of someone when he got like that. It would be for the best if we waited and observed him and his team before following our orders. Humph, fine, Suigetsu muttered. Then let's go find a heaven scroll. Location, Team Avatar. They walked into the forest, completely calm. Once they were out of sight of the gate, they stopped. Akela kept watch. So, did it work? Zuko asked Naruto. Of course, it worked. He answered with a grin, pulling a heaven scroll. They had an abundance of them due to the fact they expected more genin. I made the clone beforehand. He snuck in and took the scroll. But how did he know which scroll to take? They had a list. He answered shortly, putting the scroll back. Anyway, now we need to get to the tower. So, what, we just walk in a straight line? Sokka asked. He looked around, trying to see where to go from there. But all he could see was a lot of huge trees. If he hadn't been to the foggy swamp, he would have been impressed by the size of the trees. It's that, or we can climb to the top of the trees. Once up there, I make more clones and then make them throw us at the tower. They can do that? The tribesman asked, surprised by that little piece of information. If you want them to. Let's just stick to walking. It never hurt anyone, right? If that's the case, we won't be walking. He looked in the general direction of the tower. It's about 6 miles or so to the tower. We want to get this over with quickly. We run. He looked back at them. Are there any complaints? Are you actually going to listen to them if we tell you we have them? Zuko asked him. Probably not, he admitted. Then why bother? Relax, it's only 6 miles. Also, I know where I'm going. He took off and they followed. They ran for 6 miles at a dead run. By the time they had reached the tower, Naruto was lightly sweating. There, you see? It wasn't that bad. He pulled out another cigarette and lit it. Sokka, on the other hand, was panting heavily. I think, riding Appa, made me a bit lazy," he admitted. Akela rolled his eyes when he heard that. Zuko was a little better, but not by much. "Well, are we here?" Naruto looked at the door. "Yeah, we're here. And we lucked out too. This is the door we're supposed to go through as well." He grabbed hold of the door handles and opened it. "Come on, guys," he said as he walked through the door. After a moment of getting their breath back, they followed. What they saw was a big room. At the end of the room was a board with a poem written on it. But they didn't pay attention to it. They were paying more attention to the guy standing against the wall underneath the poem. "Jiraiya," Naruto greeted shortly as he blew out smoke. "Naruto," he said. He walked towards them a bit, stopping a few feet in front of them. "I take it you have the scrolls." "They're right here." The blonde pulled out the scrolls and tossed them at him. "Congratulations," he said as he grabbed the scrolls out of the air. "You passed the second exam in 45 minutes. You've beaten the old record by 52 minutes. "Yay," Naruto said flatly. "So, what happens now?" Zuko asked the old shinobi. "Well, normally I'd explained what the poem behind is supposed to mean, but Naruto already knows it, and you too." Akela growled slightly. "Sorry, you three aren't shinobi. There's also the part where Tsunade tells you the true purpose about the exams before letting you off for a month so you can train for the third exam." "A month?" repeated Sokka, thinking of the comet. "We're going to cut it that close." "It looks that way," Naruto told him before looking back at Jiraiya. "So, we're gonna have to wait 5 days before listening to the spiel." "No. You're going to get right to the training." "And who's going to train us?" "Me." "Oh great, our training will be frequently interrupted by peeping time." He groaned. "Believe me, Gaki," Jiraiya said with a completely serious face. "There will be no peeping with anyone on anybody during this training session." He dropped the scrolls to the ground and walked past them. "Follow me." Location, Konoha 11 building. Aang, Azula, Toph, Suki and Katara, along with Momo, spent the day with the Konoha 11 in the apartment building. "So how long are these exams supposed to be?" Katara asked as they sat in the living room. "Well, the first exam is only an hour," Ino explained. "But the second exam could last up to 5 days." Kiba continued. "And the third exam is a month later." Niji finished. "We're going to be here for a month?" Aang repeated. "We don't have the time for that." "I'm sorry," Hinata said apologetically. "But that's the way it is. Let's just hope that Sokka and the others made it through the first exam," the air nomad said, making it sound like a prayer. "They'll be fine," Choji assured him. "Yeah, if anything, Naruto's luck will get them through," Kiba said with a laugh. Katara, Aang and Toph shared a confused look. "How will Naruto's luck make them succeed?" Katara asked. "Naruto's luck is almost legendary around here," Tenten explained. "He once won the jackpot in a casino with a coin he found on the ground. That would explain why he never went to a gambling hall." Azula mused to herself. "You know of Naruto's most youthful luck?" Lee asked her with a curious look in his eyes. "Once he decided to stay, he would often play gambling games with people. She replied. After a while, they stopped playing for money with him. Every time they did, he would always manage to win. He was also good at knowing who was scamming and who was cheating." They heard a chuckle come from the doorway. "That Gaki's got the luck of the gods. Wish I had that," a voice said. They all turned around to see who it was. The Konoha 11 all stood up when they did. "Lady Tsunade, what are you doing here?" Ino asked. The members of Team Avatar all took a look at the Hokage. She was a tall woman with blonde hair and two loose ponytails that reached the back of her waist and brown eyes. On her forehead was a small purple diamond mark. She wore a green jacket over a gray blouse. The blouse was held closed by a dark bluish-gray obi that was the same color of her pants. But what got the attention of Katara, Azula and surprisingly Toph, was what the blouse held. She had the largest bust they had ever seen. When they saw them, they couldn't help but feel a little jealous. "I'm here to pass on some news," she told them. "Is it about Naruto and his team?" Hinata asked her. "Yes." "How troublesome," Shikamaru muttered. "Did they fail already?" "No, quite the opposite, they have passed both the first and the second exam already." "How can that be?" Shino asked. "The first exam only lasted an hour, but how could they finish the second exam on the first day?" "Hey, you're forgetting that we finished on the first day too, Shino," Kiba told him. "Only the Sand siblings beat us there. And that is something interesting," Tsunade said, getting their attention once more. "Naruto's team beat the Sand siblings' record." "How much did they beat it by?" Niji asked. 52 minutes. That stunned everyone. "They finished the second exam in 45 minutes? How?" asked Ino. "Are you a proctor for the Chunin exams, Ino?" the Hokage asked her with a pointed tone of voice. "No," she answered. "Then I can't tell you." "Can't or won't?" Shikamaru asked. She ignored him, and he didn't push it. "Where are Naruto and the others now?" Azula asked Tsunade. "They will be spending the month training. You won't be able to see them for the duration of that time," she answered shortly. "Is this part of the whole exam thing?" Toph asked. "No, this is because their trainer will require nothing but their complete and undivided attention." "Who will be training them?" Katara asked. "Jiraiya," she answered. "Well, that can't be too bad. I'm sure that Jiraiya will be fair to them," the waterbender remarked. Tsunade snorted in derision when she heard that. "Kid, you don't know him." "What do you mean, Lady Tsunade?" Hinata asked. "Jiraiya has only trained one genin squad, and it's not because he's picky. He has only trained one genin squad because they were the only genin squad able to survive his training," she told all of them. "I tried it once and I never want to do it again. I don't think I could survive another round of it." "Is Lord Jiraiya that bad?" Choji asked. The Hokage saying that even she would survive the training was either a cause for awe or worry. When he's really serious about the training, he will demand nothing but perfection. He is a sadist when it comes to that, she told all of them. Aang, Azula, Toph and Katara all shared the same thought. What kind of torture are they going to go through? That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.